On today's episode of the GrowthX Inner Circle, we have Saurabh Jain.
For me, the trust is very important. That trust comes when I see somebody's working really hard.
Saurabh takes us through his journey as Chief of Staff at Swiggy when they saw a 10x growth run, leading Navi Mutual Funds under Sachin Bansal as the CEO.
I think what I've learned from Sachin is get somebody who has not done that role, give him an opportunity and make that person leading that rather than creating multiple layers, getting some senior people into doing this.
Insights into building a great team.
The best people that I've worked with are the folks who are interns, spend 12 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours, weekday, weekends with me. Identifying the right person for the right role, I believe is a $1 billion startup that will come out of that.
Lessons from feeling twice as a founder.
I was going this and that flight was flying. I just couldn't stop crying. I said, what is happening?
And disrupting the way India invests today with stable money.
This is a bigger gap where there is not a single platform which is giving you as seamless experience as Swiggy, as Zerodha, as Grow, but is focused on fixed return products.
This is a masterclass in building 0 to 1 startups.
The goal is to make India wealthier by making those small, smart choices when it comes to a large amount of their capital.
Today we have someone really interesting with us. He was a chief of staff at Swiggy. He was a CEO of Navi Mutual Funds, and he's been a founder a couple of times. Currently, he is the founder and is building stable money. It's in the fintech space. Hey, Saurabh.
Hey, thanks, Adhar. I'm super excited to be here.
That's what everyone says.
I'm genuinely is because I think what all you told me that we'll be discussing, I think this is very unique.
Yeah.
And also it makes me switch off from the things that I'm doing day to day and just think back and look at what has happened in the last 15, 20, 30 years, right? So
wow.
I'm super excited. Things will come. I'm not prepped for it. Let's see.
30 years. How old are you right now?
I'm 35.
Wow. And I'm not going to go to 30 years. The plan is not to go back to when you're 5 years old.
But I believe a lot of that is rooted into childhood. And and that's why it keeps going back to those memories.
So like, where are you right now? Like, if I just like you ground yourself and you're like, hey man, this is what's important for me right now. This is what's happening. Like, what's real for you right now? Kya chal raha hai?
Every time I think that anything new happens is the best possible or the most critical time for me, and I'm in that stage right now that maybe this is the most critical time for me. Maybe after the JEE preparation, right? That I want to make this work. I think a lot of my life depends on what happens in the next 2-3 months. So I am very nervous. I'm also very excited. I'm not sleeping for the last I don't know how many days. So it's crazy times. So I'm just there. Let's see how that happens. So
how is that working? Not sleeping?
Not sleeping. Like sometimes you sleep, but you don't feel like you have slept for. You had that peaceful sleep, right? So it's that as you close your eyes, you have numbers flowing through, you have thoughts, ideas, discussion, and I am getting up 2 a.m, opening Notion doc and just writing few thoughts so that I don't miss out on those things. And then I'm not able to sleep because I want to tell those thoughts to the team immediately. So all of that is happening, and maybe I think I'm also screwing up life for a lot of people around me because of that. But I know I'll remember this time a lot. So I think I'm just going with the flow.
I go crazy, man. Like if I don't sleep, I'm a bad person to be around.
Because it's not the first, second time. This is actually the third time that I'm doing this. I know what you do, what you say has a lot of impact on people around you. They see you, they monitor you constantly. My family is used to it, but the people that I'm working with. So when I get into the office, when I park my car, I close my eyes saying that, okay, now I don't want to pass on all this anxiety to the team. They just have to follow what they are supposed to do, follow the process. And that's what I'm trying to do. Sometimes I break down, but other than that, most of the time it's working.
I think our families are so much more forgiving to us versus like peers who are new.
And I feel bad for that. Like I'm taking them too much for granted. And for me, it's a very different setup, right? For my parents, my son, we all stay together. And my mom gets worried so much that I still remember yesterday night she was telling me that 2 दिन पहले you were walking and thinking something right? And I'm worried what is happening. So like they're constantly looking at you, but they can't say anything. So I feel bad. But yeah, I know all of this. There is that gut feeling that this is all for good.
And you hide it well, man. Like I met you. Like I mean, I think we're meeting for the first time, but we kind of and you hide it quite well.
Yeah, it's
so what's like this stable money. By the way, all of this you were talking about is you building stable money with Harish.
Yeah.
And what else is on? Like what other projects? Like you have a son, right?
Yeah.
How old is he, by the way?
My son is will be 7 years now. Yeah, I know. So a lot of people. So I got married when I was 23. So that's why he's 7 years. But I think that's one project that I am really enjoying a lot. Though I'm not able to spend a lot of time with him, but wherever I can, I am doing that. So to make him ready for the school is my duty. When I go home, play chess with him is my duty. To make him sleep is my duty. There's also that guilt which says that, okay, I'm not spending time, do something with him. I'm doing that, but I'm really liking him when I go home. I think we have all taught him now to ask each other, how was your day? So when he asks me, how is my day? I think I just forget everything. I just tell him the good things, right? So some of those things are also having a lot of effect on me. So that's one thing that is happening right now. And I'm also putting a lot of focus. I know what I've said in the past versus what I'm saying right now is contradictory, but I'm also putting a lot of focus on my health right now, because I've seen when I was doing it for the first time, initially there is so much of energy, momentum that you go with the flow. But when you really need it, right, when your team needs it and you want it and things are not, maybe sometimes work, sometimes doesn't work, your health doesn't support, right? So I have been working on my health for the last good 1.5, 2 years, where I do gym, I do yoga, I do meditation. I'm trying to follow some of that regularly. So these are the 2-3 things that I am doing right now, focusing. Not able to do this perfectly well, but yeah.
I've seen that. I think like for a lot of founders, their body is a way to take their brain to a meeting.
Yeah.
Like it's just a functional thing without realizing that that's actually the core of what you're left with.
Yeah.
When everything is, the dust settles down and everything is done and dusted with.
Yeah. And I also have that I don't know why, but I have that very bad feeling that, so my dad had a stroke 10, 12 years back. And I've always heard this from so many people that it is hereditary.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
And I always think that I don't want this. And that's why sometimes, either it's because of some other reasons or anything, if there is a pain, you always think of the worst.
Yeah.
I don't want that. So I just keep working on, that's why health is very, very critical for me.
It's a very interesting trait,
Yeah.
I saw like a lot of people, when something bad happens, they don't think about the worst. They just ignore it.
Yeah.
They just hide it. And I think this is a very type A sort of thing. So, like behavior or trait, I would say that you kind of look at it head on, right? And even as a founder, you're like, hey, this is the biggest thing that's breaking and this is what I need to focus on.
Yeah.
Versus we all get busy into doing things which keep us busy, and then the biggest thing is where we don't focus on. So I think with that, I would love to understand from you, what's that one thing that you believe in, that's your core belief or perspective that you hold, that that it's not people around you, or it's not popular, or it's like people would disagree with you on that, or you would disagree with them. What would that be?
Oh, so I think one thing that I have most disagreement on is I seriously believe that hard work is the most critical part, and you being smart is not the most critical part, right? Honestly, I know myself as I'm not the smartest person in the room, in any of the rooms that I've been, but I have cracked JEE, or I am doing the second, third venture, or whatever. Some of the minor accomplishment in the past is just because of the sheer hard work that I know. Despite COVID, I used to be in Navi office at 9 a.m. and leave after Sachin leaves, right? I put all of that hard works. If somebody's looking for me, I'll be there. And that has worked for me. And sometimes when people get it very easily, they don't value that. That's where I have a disconnect. When people don't put hard work and they feel that, okay, I'm smart, I'll figure it out myself. And they will do it good. The only challenge I see is, for me, I'm not able to resonate with those people really well. Yeah.
So, okay, let me dig deeper here, okay? This is what a founder will say because he knows कि ये podcast जो है ना मेरा team सुनेगा, and I want them to work hard. We are building a narrative here. But I don't believe it, man. You're smart. And yes, you worked hard. But you're also doing it. I'm going to, at the end of it, we will discuss, or maybe, talk about it right now. You have been at the right place at the right time.
Yep.
Hard work was because you got that opportunity, you grabbed it like anything, and you just made sure that you don't just lose it.
Yeah.
And that's commendable. But did you design luck, or how did that part happen?
Yeah, so I'll give you some examples, right? Why I believe the hard work is is so critical onto this. When Swiggy happened and when I got the opportunity to do this whole expansion piece, right?
Yeah.
It's not because this was designed to be given to me. I was supposed to just coordinate between the folks, right? But as the team was preparing their presentation for Vivek, and as Vivek was doing some other thing, I was spending extra hours to make sure that I prepare something that could work well. Right, and that gave me that opportunity. Okay, you do this. With Sachin also, when the whole Navi piece happened, I showed that consistency in terms of just being there, focusing on things, valuing the customers, and then there was a point where I don't think anybody knows how the whole Navi CEO story happened, and maybe we'll talk about that. But that there was a time when I thought that maybe I should go and ask him that I want to take this position. I went with 3-4 options to him, right? And this was my first option because मुझे पता था कि Sachin will say no. And then there is second and third. And third ये मेरे लिए best है, but ये इसको last में पूछता हूँ.
Yes.
And he said yes, right? So I believe that's how you design luck, that you are constantly in a process of building things, showing up, preparing yourself, so that one day when it comes, right, when you will ask for that, I think you will get that, is what I've seen. And this is not because there is a podcast, but even in my team, there are, and when we talk about Navi as well, when we talk about Swiggy as well, right, the best people that I've worked with are the folks who are interns or who started as an intern, spent 12 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours, weekday, weekends with me, and have really given the best what they can. And we have few interns right now who actually converted from interns to full-time. And today they are handling the biggest responsibility that we can have in the company. Right? And the same happened with Swiggy as well. My first hire as a Navi mutual fund CEO was the intern that I worked with at Swiggy. Right? So for me, that is important. That might not be necessarily true. I believe if somebody can put the efforts, फिर उससे डिजिटल मार्केटिंग करवाना है, या उससे सेल्स करवाना है, या फिर उससे कस्टमर कॉलिंग करवानी है, या फिर उससे कुछ और करवाना, आई थिंक ही विल बी एबल टू डू दैट, बिकॉज यू जस्ट हैव टू गिव दैट पर्सन द रिसोर्सेस एंड ही विल बी एबल टू फिगर इट आउट. फॉर मी द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज दैट ट्रस्ट, राइट, दैट अदर इफ आई ट्रस्ट यू देन रिसोर्सेज मिल जाएंगे यार. बट मुझे इतना गारंटी है कि मैं पीसफुली सो रहा हूँ, बट दिस गाय विल मेक श्योर, और दिस पर्सन विल मेक श्योर दैट दिस इज डन. फिर उसके लिए जगना है, कुछ भी करना है, दैट एटीट्यूड इज वेरी क्रिटिकल. सो फॉर मी दैट ट्रस्ट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दैट ट्रस्ट कम्स व्हेन आई सी somebody is working really hard. I don't know why is this a thing, but that's the pattern that I've seen. Like somebody who is smart, able to deliver, but very lenient or casual in the attitude would work, but has not worked for me.
Like I think what I'm picking up from here is hard work, but how I'm translating it is showing up, being consistent, and being at it. Right? You're there to give directions, you're there to help out, and it's okay. Like sometimes we all don't know. Sometimes founders essentially don't know, like where we're heading, but you kind of figure it out. So let's talk about, we know founder a couple of times, right? So, and the popular narrative that is that you've been a founder twice.
Yeah.
Like right now, and then earlier with Truce.
Yeah.
But then there was a startup earlier before. Like let's start from there. Like what is that, man? So that was with Harish, right?
That was with Harish, who's my current co-founder, and that's where our relationship started. That was in the last year of college, right? And see, both of us at that point in time, financially, at home or individually, were very broken. Like both our families and everything, and we had no resources to pay the college fees and all of that. Like nobody knows this, and we also don't talk about that. But we said कि यार Saurabh and Harish कि यार हमको पैसा बनाना है. अभी हमको एक साल कुछ करके पैसा बनाना है. Let's see what we can do the best, right? Because we were very clear that we are not the smartest of the lot in the college to get the first day one job or a big job. So we said कि कुछ तो करेंगे, and we just figured out something, and we had few contacts that people who got a very good rank, how do we get those people with us and create a course material. And we were actually maybe very few who started this edtech kind of thing. तब तो कुछ ऐसा था नहीं, and we were getting these toppers who just got into IITs, work with them, create a course, go to tier 1, tier 2 cities and sell them the course. कि यार आप ये कोर्स JEE prep जो कर रहे हो उनको पढ़ाओ. And that's how we did, and we got a 5 lakh, right? And we thought कि
from users,
from one of the coaching classes in Aurangabad, which is my hometown. And we were happy, and we said कि यार ये अच्छा है, इसी को करेंगे. But then we got into placements, and we got a job together in the same company, luckily. Right? No, that was not Fractal. So there is another story that we got into JP Capital, and this was the company from which I got fired. Oh, right. And nobody knows this, but we got into that, and we said कि as soon as we got a job, right, and that was a 9 lakh package. Everybody was very happy. My parents, his parents, कि यार तुम 9 लाख की जॉब कर रहे हो, दैट मीन्स 75,000 रुपये घर पे. इट्स बिग कि ठीक है यार, यही करना है हमको जॉब. And we actually closed down our business, right? And this was much before any of the Byju's or any of those things. And today maybe one of the regrets that I have is that we should have continued, but we were very short-term focused. We said कि यार आज हमको पैसा कहाँ दिख रहा है, we'll just go there, because that was the need of an hour. So that was the first startup. We did it for, I don't know, 6 to 9 months. The last year, we did that, got some money, saved that money, or used that money. So that was the first startup, and that is how me and Harish, we know each other.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One is, we come from a place in Aurangabad where like money wasn't abundant. Like tell me, I think now I know why it's important to go when you were like 5.
Yeah.
But like, what was life? What brought you to IIT? What brought you to this hunger to build something with Harish?
Yeah.
And of course, I know I mean, I shouldn't say I know, but I feel you when you say that the short-term focus. That's there. Like when there is this Maslow triangle का सबसे base खाली है, तो when the tummy is empty, and then you have this very short-term focus to just kind of figure that out. And sometimes a lot of people get stuck there.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right.
You didn't, and that's great.
Right.
But even like, what even brought you there? Like, what was childhood? What brought you to that place?
Yeah. So I was the only child, and I never focused too much into what's happening day to day in the family. Well, obviously, I could see there is a lot of tension, and dad is doing multiple jobs or businesses, and some of those things are not working out. Mom is also working and measuring things, but I was okay. It's comfortable. You never felt it, because I have my extended family who was there, and I was always with them, and they used to take me out and all of that. So things were okay. And my mom won't agree with this, but she always thinks that I was the topper, but I was never the topper. I was always maybe the 3rd, 4th, 5th kind of a guy that everybody ignores, right? कि तुमको क्या ध्यान दे, मतलब ना topper हो ना पीछे हो. And one fine day, and I remember this, right? So in 10th, my dad was doing some business. This is 2003, right? 20 years back. and my dad got a job because that business wasn't working well, and he got a job. And 20 years back, he got a job which was 7,000 a month, right? And everybody was so happy.
Yeah.
And when I look back today, I said, "Ki 7,000 per month mein everybody was so happy." I still remember we went to a big temple, Hanuman Ji ka temple, on the day he got a job, just to say, "Ki, oh, thank you so much. We are blessed because he got a 7,000 rupees job." And that job was just running around. That was a stockbroking and just to go to people. So that was very painful. And that day, like after that, my class teacher called me and said, "Ki, Saurabh, see, if you don't study, right, your family will not be able to maybe survive or do this for you. You will have to. You are the only hope." And I think that was the time when I realized. And then those 6-9 months, I still remember. I used to study the whole night. And tab 10th mein SSC, I was in SSC, Maharashtra, and it was 3-hour papers hote the 10th mein. And board was a big thing, right? So I used to sit at 9 p.m., 9 p.m. to 12 p.m., 12 to 3, and 3 to 6. I used to write 3 papers, right? The examination papers, which my dad used to collect at 6 from me once he gets up. And then he used to go to different teachers and show it to them and get it checked and get it back to me. And then again, I used to study and do that. I did that day in, day out for 9 months. And I was the third in the merit. I got whatever 93.5, and everybody was shocked. Like my school called me on that day, and I still remember Sanskrit was one of the papers that I had.
Yeah.
And I remember I made a mistake of 2 marks, like 100% sure. Even today, if somebody can go back and check that paper, it's a 2 marks ka mistake, but the handwriting was so nice that maybe they gave 100. I don't know what happened. And then I got a call from my school the day, and they said ki Saurabh came first. And the teacher said that we didn't expect this. Like, and when I got in, like everybody was like, nobody was happy. Like people were happy, but everybody was shocked. Ki Saurabh kaise aa gaya? And all of that happened. But yeah, my teacher was the teacher who told me this was very confident of this. My parents were delighted. And then and then there was some series of events that happened, and got into NTSC and got selected into Homi Baba, and then some of those things happened, and tumhara photo jis din paper mein, and that's where I think me and my family got the first recognition in the life कि कुछ है यहाँ पर to see. I think that changed the whole curve and area under the curve today for all of us. And when I talk to my son, or when we talk about some of these things at home, because parents are with us, so we keep talking about those things, it still feels very unreal what we have today, right? Like I have a car to come to office is a big thing that just 10 years back we couldn't think of, right? So for us, last 20 years were very I think it was a good ride. So I just feel that, and whatever happened in the childhood, right, that shaped up this. And that's where when I tell you this, right, ki why might be completely wrong, why I feel somebody who has to work really hard to get this is critical, is because you have gone through all of this, right? So that's why it's very deeply rooted. I have somebody in the team who travels 25 kilometers in Bangalore, and he's in office at 9 a.m. and he leaves at 9 p.m. Like, it's very too early to judge whether he's too smart or not, but I'm 100% sure this guy will do something. Because he's just showing up, right? He's putting that hard work. He said कि यार मैं कर लूँगा, मुझे दो, कोशिश करो. He makes mistakes. He feels sorry and he feels like यार मैंने क्या कर दिया if I make this mistake. So yeah, that's I think it's more because of I see some part of me in those people when I talk about the people that I do. So that's what I have.
You're riding the wave.
Yeah.
you got a 9 lakh job
Yeah.
and you got fired.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I got a 9 lakh job and everybody was happy at home कि चलो यार अब लड़का पैसा कमाएगा. And we reached Delhi. I still remember from Aurangabad to Delhi was a 36 hours train. And my parents booked a normal sleeper, non-AC ticket. And this was the first time I was not like after college going alone so far. I was shit scared. But the only hope was कि अभी जाते ही 1 महीना काम करके 75,000 मिलेगा. So I went, landed in Delhi and we started the job. On the first day they said कि यार अभी तो probation पे हो तो मिलेगा 25,000 ही. And like कि ये तो this is painful. It's very traditional job. We still, but all of us friends, me, Harish, one of other like few friends, we stayed together. And still used to manage 25,000 में. I still remember हमारा breakfast, lunch, dinner was छोले कुलचा 10 रुपए का जो मिलता था. Because all of us wanted to save, right? Like Harish had a similar background. Everybody was of the similar background. So सबको पैसा बचाना था. And the job was morning 9 to night 12. Because it was stock, then currency and commodities. So it was a properly, and then next day you have to be there. And I still remember one day when they used to send a cab for us to pick up and drop, right? I reached office late on that day and they asked me to wait outside on the reception. And that was the time I just called my mom and cried so much, saying कि यार mom, ये मैंने IIT क्यों किया? Like I have done IIT and the hopes that you had, I had, that we will do so much. And अभी तो मैं रिसेप्शन पे खड़ा हूँ just because I'm late और वो भी ये 25,000 दे रहे. So and that was the time I decided कि यार ये नहीं करना है. And my mom said कि यार you come back, Saurabh, ये सब मत कर. So I said कि अच्छा ठीक है मैं वापस आता हूँ और वहाँ के कुछ जॉब ढूंढेंगे. तो I came back and it was I think 20th or 15th of the month. कुछ था तो मैंने बोला यार अभी बोलूँगा तो मंथ की सैलरी नहीं आएगी बिकॉज आई नो हाउ द कंपनी इज. वो लोग बोलेंगे कि अरे नहीं तुम नहीं देंगे पैसा. सो आई सेड कि मुझे वॉट एवर आई वॉज नॉट फीलिंग वेल, मलेरिया कुछ आई सेड, एंड आई केम बैक टू औरंगाबाद. एंड व्हेन आई रीच्ड होम, दिस वाज 2010, my dad was with another broking and he lost the job. And so that happened, but they didn't tell me because of my attention neta. So I said ki theek hai, and they were also taking it cool because ki yaar Saurabh should not take a pressure. And I was preparing for a CFA exam, so I used to remember this. And my everyday routine was the same, that parents used to sleep at 10 and I was studying. And then as soon as they sleep, we had that big computer वैसा लंबा वाला और वो broadband होता था उसमें BSNL का टक 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 आवाज़ करने वाला. And as soon as they sleep, I used to close the books and open the laptop and go onto every company's website and careers and apply. Like I still have all those email. I'll send it to you as well, that I have written emails to everybody, career at this company, career at that company. I used to apply that the whole night and sleep. Right? और तो मैंने CFA पढ़ा नहीं and I actually failed CFA level 1. But one such email of maybe 700-800 application I have done was to Fractal. And next day I got a call and I went to Bombay, cracked that. And that's where like all of these things, right? When I say that you have to show up, you have to work hard, you can't lose hope, is so critical for me, that day Fractal happened, and from that point it is another change in the curve, right? So I remember I went to Fractal ka interview and there was 2-3 interviews that happened, and I came out and asked HR कि कैसे हुआ interview. I said अच्छा हुआ. हम 5-6 लोग थे and they were also hiring a lot of people because Fractal was also growing. It's a very small office at that point in time. I said कि कब पता चलेगा? बोले शाम तक बता देंगे. And that was 2 in the afternoon जब मेरा interview खत्म हुआ है. 9 to 2 said शाम को बता देंगे. And I sat in the parking of that building, I still remember, till 6 or 7. Just to know the answer is yes or no. I got a yes. And I left, took a bus, went to Aurangabad and said, "Ki yaar, ab job hai." That was also 6 lakh job. But I had some hope ki yaar, Fractal is not like JP Capital. Fractal will pay full, and this is where I can stay for a long period of time, and that's how Fractal happened.
How did you know? Like, how did you know that? Like, what was the vibe? Like,
Yeah, so that was my first exposure to the professional setup. कि जब ऑफिस में जाते हो, you know how office is set up, who are these people, what are the questions they are asking, what are the businesses that they have, right? आपको एक you get a different vibe which I didn't get in the first job, very traditional desi setup. I said कि ये सही है, the kind of people, the kind of background that they had, right, was very important. I said कि now I am in safe hands, and I don't think I was interviewed by Shrikant at that point in time, but everybody else. So yeah, and I think Fractal was the biggest change in my profession, game-changing job that I had. Like as I said, right, ki if I have to go back and choose one company, and maybe I'll go back and work with Fractal again. Yeah, and it's even today, right? Even today, I ping Shrikant on WhatsApp and we talk, and he supported us so many times. He was one of the angels that I had in Truce. Not only him, but everybody else, right? It's that deep connect that you have, where you are vulnerable. It's still okay. How do I do it? So that's how Fractal happened for me.
Fractal 2010, right?
Fractal was 2010, yeah.
It was a damn interesting place back then. Right?
Yeah.
There were a bunch of very interesting people doing really interesting stuff. So tell me about talk to me about the culture. You stayed there for around
4.5.
Around 4 or 5 years, right? So how was that? Like for a Saurabh Jain, I know, to stay for 4.5 years, like what was happening there? Like what were you learning? What were the people? What was going on?
Yeah. So I think we were working with a FMCG giant that was a new client, and everybody right from founder. Maybe I think my state today was the state of Shrikant at that point in time. That there is so much dependent on that project, right, or this company or this assignment that we have, that everybody was onto it. So you could see that hustle. Everybody is going beyond what is written in their JD to make sure that clients are happy, everybody's happy. So I remember we used to commit the timelines of X days, but we used to do it in X by 2 days, and that was the pleasure. So all of us were very happy. I was super excited. I had a laptop with me, which I never imagined कि companies laptop देती है काम करने के लिए. And I used to be so happy that I used to think about कल क्या करना है, and walk from, I don't know if you are familiar with Bombay, but walk from Bisleri Andheri office, that was our old office, to Kandivali, where I used to stay in PG. I used to walk so much. Just to think कि हाँ यार ये करेंगे, because that was the time when you could think. So and the team were growing, new businesses were coming in, we had clients were happy, company was growing, we just got the new office, right? So when you see all of those stories, right, you know कि यार सब सही चल रहा है, right? And you stay here. Then and initial couple of years, and for me, I think if you see the pattern, right, 2 years is always exciting. उसके बाद it goes down, right? Swiggy में हुआ, Navi में हुआ, maybe Truce में हुआ, and Fractal also it happened, right? Though it doesn't look on the paper or on LinkedIn, but Fractal also after 2.5 years said कि यार काफी कर लिया मैंने, I want to do something more and exciting, right? And that's when they said कि why don't you go to Geneva? Right, they were setting up a Geneva office, and they said कि Geneva जाओ. And for me, that was a dream. Right, first going outside India, and second you going to Switzerland. Right, so of all like when they said Geneva, I didn't know it was in Switzerland. Right, इतनी बुरी हालत थी. And I was shocked. I said कि यार ये तो मुझे करना ही है. And she recently got married. So yeah, and then I was in Switzerland for 2.5 years, and the same thing happened. I got bored after 2 years, and then came back, and then started something of my own. So that was Fractal. But I think the bond that I created in Fractal with everybody, the opportunities that I got there, the visibility that I got there, it was amazing. Like I still, when I go to Bombay, I try to meet a lot of folks from Fractal. We are still chatting. A lot of my early users of stable money are people from Fractal. So right? It's a family. Like beyond the point, that it's a family. When I also left, they were very okay. Ki, theek hai, jao karo. You try something if you want to do. Like, and that's what I think. Right? आज भी वापस जाना है. I think I'll be happy to go back to Fractal. Fractal will be happy to take me. And fortunately, from there till now, even Fractal has grown so exponentially just because of the sheer culture that the people who were there had set up. Right. So that was very critical.
And that's a culture that you take with you. Like I've seen that around, like just from far away, I can see that there's this culture that you have around you.
Yeah.
And you build that over time.
Yeah.
There have been some misses, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of misses that again is not visible on the paper. But made bunch of mistakes even while building the culture. Sometimes you try and go too extreme and then you realize that, okay, this is not you.
No.
And when things don't work out well, you keep coming back to square one, which is core you. But you have always hide it from everybody else. Ki nahi yaar, main to bahut alag hu. And that's where things start breaking. So I made a lot of those mistakes in my first startup, in a lot of other places.
Let's be specific. So things like culture, we've said this like word like 3-4 times now.
Yeah.
It's a word. It's just a word.
Yeah.
What does it take? What makes it? Like what are the components? Like how do you look at it?
So for me, I think the one definition of culture, which is maybe very transactional definition of culture, is I think you can define culture of any company, or you can define culture within a family as well by just observing how people give feedback to each other. That's for me is the real culture. Like if I see in stable money, people are open in sharing feedback to anybody either to me or to anybody or any other cross-functional activities, in how they give feedback, right? Do they wait for 6 months? Do they wait for 1 month? Do they give the feedback immediately? Do they give it openly? Do they give it feedback, critical feedback to somebody one-on-one? That defines the culture of the company. How you give feedback to your family member defines the culture of that family, right? Ki yaar, aap karte ho baat. Do you talk to your parents openly saying ki yaar, I am facing this problem, or I don't like this, or I want to do this? I think that is very critical. And it, like whatever said and done, I know Harish for last 14 years, but it is not easy to give feedback when you are working together. And that has to be defined, that has to be set as a process. And we talk every day. We have set up time to give feedback to each other. वो बहुत critical है. And that's what I define as a culture, right? We were at Fractal, it was an open floor where everybody used to talk, celebrate, give feedback, take feedback, and said ki yaar, this is what my client has said and they don't like this, what should I do? Ask for help. वो culture है. Like all the other pieces are there, like how do you define it well so that people understand this little better and it looks little fancy? But मुझे लगता है कि sharing feedback is one, maybe the very core definition of culture.
And how do you do that? Like how? So you said that you still struggle giving feedback to Harish. Yeah. How do you do that? What's the structure? Like what's the structure you follow? Like so if we were to work together, right?
Yeah.
How would we give feedback to each other?
Yeah. So I think one mistake that I used to do before this is because when I was doing Tros, I always wanted everybody around me to like me, right? वो सबसे बड़ी चीज़ होनी चाहिए कि यार people like me, respect me, or there has to be some fear also. And when you want people to like you, and that is not organic, I used to do things which is not me, right? For example, I used to be okay with people coming late. I used to be okay when people miss out on certain things. I used to be okay when people said they will deliver something but not delivering something, because अब मैं feedback दूंगा, they might not feel good. I used to do that. But when things were not right? My natural self was that I don't like this. And when I go to my natural self, and people will say, what is this sudden change? Abhi tak to you were okay, and what is happening right now? And then it used to go south from there.
Absolutely.
With everybody. I think that is one thing that I'm not doing at Stable Money is being very clear and upfront with the team that this is what I expect, this is what Harish and I expect from the team. And that's where when I said, right, we have a rule where we want people to be in office at 10:30. And our first stand-up starts at 10:30. And if you are late, there is a fine which goes into the party fund, which we celebrate together. But we want to be very, very clear who we are and how we work, right? That we want people to be very hardworking. We want people to be very obsessed with customer. We want people to deliver what they say. Like we want people that we trust, that if I'm sitting here for 2-3 hours, I don't have to be running multiple threads in my head ki yaar team kya kar rahi hogi, kaam kar rahi hogi nahi. When that is there, it doesn't work. And we I was very clear to everybody that we hired that this is what it is. It might work, it might not work for you. We might try it for initial few months and see how that goes. And that helped me. And that helped me in giving feedback. When I started giving feedback, people were not saying, why are you giving feedback? When the feedback was very real time, people are saying, aisa kyun bol rahe ho? I still remember in a lot of calls or some of the common meetings when somebody used to do things that I don't like, or I used to give very instant feedback alone, independently to that individual. But then that has set that trust that a lot of people still come back to me and give me feedback one-on-one. Here, Saurabh, what you said to me was not good, right? And I'm not clear. You're still expecting me to do this. How should I do this, right? So those things have made it very clear. And today when I get into office, I don't have to pretend to be somebody else, because when you think something and do something, it's multiple threads in your head, and that will never work. You are never efficient when you do this. So I'm very clear, right, that, okay, this is who I am, and I might not be the best person that you work with, but this is who I am. And then it works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for a lot of people. So, but I am very clear. I'm very efficient in who I am. So that's what we do for feedback as well. If something is breaking, if there is some concern that I have or Harish have, we just go out, talk quickly and solve it. Don't wait for the formal meeting to come up, or don't wait for end of the day or beginning of the day. So that's what we do. Whenever there is feedback for the team, we go back and give the feedback very immediately. Obviously, there is some feedback that can wait for the proper official one-on-one. So that we do. Wherever there is a celebration for somebody who has done a great job, that we do very openly. So that's there. And whenever things are not working, people can see it on my face and they know that what he's doing, why he's doing. So that's there. It's not still perfect yet, but I at least know that I have to be myself. I don't have to pretend. And that's where I've seen a lot of first-time founders, what I was used to do, right? Used to make mistake कि यार पहले तो तुम favorite co-founder बनो, you be famous and you be loved by everybody. वो थोड़ा difficult है.
That's not the job to be done. That's not the JTBD. And I think that's very interesting, right? Like, here's what I'm taking away, Saurabh. I think one is that this cognitive effort to wear a mask, right? As a founder, it just breaks. And the other thing is, like what you said, right? Show up. Be consistent. If that's who you are and you want to be like this, be like that the whole time. But if you're not, and then eventually that mask cracks up, it leaves this jarring experience of inconsistency.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing. And the other thing I'm taking out from here is that being like the speed at which you move is about feedbacks. It's about that communication. Like, we are not enterprises here that we're going to wait for that, monthly 101 or something like that, and then delicately put it across. Like, hey, of course, like, we're going to be kind with our words and then share the feedback effectively, but we've got to do it real time so that you don't go in the wrong direction for a week or a month and then figure it out, right? You're like, here it is, fix it, let's move.
Yeah, and the emotion that comes when you talk real time, right, is very different from the emotion that comes when you speak after a week or two, right? That importance doesn't come out. People don't appreciate that because they also don't remember what they did exactly and why that happened, right? So a lot of RC on what happened wrong can't happen if you delay it by a week or two. Like, अगर आपका tech फटा है, आप RC immediately करो and set up that process. That's exactly needs to happen when with people. Do RC immediately. Why did we do this mistake and solve that immediately? There should not be a delay in that.
Let's talk about truths.
Okay.
Like, how did that happen? Like, how did a guy who figured out edtech to some extent,
Yeah.
now he is sitting in Geneva,
Yeah.
newly married, honeymoon चल रहा था 2.5 साल का,
Nice.
and then you're like, no man, I'm not happy in Geneva, and this Switzerland dream is cracking up.
Yeah.
And I understand the 2.5 years because like that's exactly like 3 years I used to tell that I used to have like an expiration date to everything, including friends. Like that was my belief for a long time.
Yeah.
My dad was in the army, and like you get
Keeps
posted.
moving.
Yeah, and I just think that I believed that everything has to change in 3 years.
Yeah.
And like see like very similar sort of thing here.
No, I believe that for me to move to the like वो integration सीखा था right बचपन में, that it's all area under the curve and you have to keep changing your slope every time. And like for me it's 2 years that I think कि यार maybe it's from here the slope will remain same, right? I'll have to change the slope and it could go either ways, right? So when I was in Geneva, I'll tell you the story, right? I came to Bombay, right? There was some fractal function and we were going back, and just before taking the flight, 3 hours before taking the flight, I was meeting people who were either part of the startups or founder of some company just recently started. There was housing, there was Zola, there was a lot of companies they were raising. And I said that, okay, I'm meeting these 5-6 of my friends and I will be the main topic when we are this. Because I was the only one who's staying in Geneva. I was like there, what are you traveling? क्या काम है? कितना पैसा कमाते हो? कितना पैसा बचाते हो? And I realized that the 1.5 hours that we met, right? We spoke about me and Geneva for maybe 4-5 minutes. That's all. Everybody was talking about how they are working with. There was one person working in Task Job, which is another big startup there. And there was 2 of my friends. They were founder of Niffler, one of the founders, current founder of GrowthX. And we were all sitting and nobody was talking about me. And to be very honest, I had such a big FOMO. While taking a flight back, I said, "Yeah, I want to come back," to my wife, and my wife was like, "Yaar, kya hua suddenly?" Because we were working really hard to get a B permit, which is for a long term, 10 years in Geneva. And then I went, and when there is a new thought in my head, right? It doesn't happen कि अच्छे 6 महीनों में decide करेंगे. It happens immediately. We landed in Geneva after 4-5 days. I spoke to one of my mentee who was one of the founders of Tiny Owl. They had raised recently. I said कि यार मुझे इंडिया आना है, अब बताओ. I said कि यार come, we are looking for head of analytics. And it happened in 3-4 days. I resigned, and from meeting my friends to coming back to India was 2 months. It's happened so much. It's just so fast.
Wow.
And I genuinely believe that if you don't think it is working for you, or if you think it is working for you, then don't wait. Like just do it. So, and that's what happened. That's how I landed in India, and that was Tiny Owl. With Tiny Owl, it was very clear I want to do something of my own, but I am just settling down in India after 2 years. Want to see how the ecosystem is, किस पे काम करना है, whom I want to work with. And while coming back, I remember in the flight, I started making a list of people that I want to work with as a co-founder, or people that I want to work with. And put down the names, right? And obviously you start with the best possible name in your head and put down name of somebody I know from college. I'll tell you. And from my college, best person that I've known, best human being that I've known, स्टड था, एवरीथिंग वाज परफेक्ट कि बट आई नो कि ये सब लोग तो नहीं आएंगे, 5th-6 से काम करना शुरू करेंगे, ठीक है. बट नाम लिखा, मैं केम बैक एंड कॉल दैट पर्सन एंड ही अग्रीड, एंड हिज नेम इज केदार गोखले, who was my wingy in college, mechanical, IIT Bombay, got the first job in our batch, BCG. Took a drop to prepare for UPSC. I thought कि ये मेरे साथ कभी नहीं काम करेगा. Like, why will Kedar will work with me, right? And called and he said yes. And this is the exact same thing that happened with Sachin. Like, you always prepare, ask. And that happened, and that's why. And then I thought कि यार अभी शुरू करेंगे, 3-6 महीने में कोई मिलेगा.
Yeah.
I started. First call, he said yes. I left Tiny Owl in 3 months. And we said कि यार I was coming from Tiny Owl, तो थोड़ा restaurants वाला idea था. And he had done one small business धंधा on the farm side, where he had some Ratnagiri में farms, Alfonso's. He used to procure from there and sell it in Bombay. बहुत लोग करते थे उस time पे. I said कि यार कुछ करते हैं इसमें. He said, then we got into this whole farm wala piece, started visiting farms and everything. And the idea was very simple, that procure from farmers and delivering it to the restaurants. That was the business that we had, B2B. And that was true price, that you get the true price. And the next day, like the day I left Tiny Owl, the next day we were on the road onboarding a lot of restaurants. I still remember Chandivali mein, Pawai Chandivali, we onboarded 2-3 small restaurants. I still remember Mint Leaf was one restaurant that we onboarded in Chandivali. I think it's still there. And they said, ki aunty, kal ye saman le aao. I said, we are not prepped. How do I get? We still got up at 4 in the morning and we went to APMC and procured those items. 5-6 kilo ka hi tha. And APMCs are like people procure in bulk.
Yeah.
And we were there like retail buying for one restaurant. And we did that, took the auto, came back, delivered to the restaurant. That's where it started. And we did that for, I think, a month or 2. Kuch khud ka capital tha, and that we tried. And that's where we spoke to Abhishek Goel, who was founder of Traction, and said कि हम ये कर रहे हैं. And he said कि ठीक है, I want to fund you. उस time पे Traction used to do some seed investments as well. And that's how we got our first check from Traction. And then a lot of angels joined in. Kunal Bahal, Rohit Bansal, their Titan, they joined in. A lot of other folks joined in who are still part of our angel group in Stable Money. And that's how we raised our, I think, first 2.5 crores and got some small office, and then got the warehouse and started working from there. That's how Truce started.
How was that? How was that journey?
Oh, that journey was very crazy, because obviously some of the first time founder mistake I've told you. But both of us, because of our background, were very frugal. मतलब इतना frugal कि I still remember our office must be this height. And imagine 2 floors in this.
What?
Yeah. So that was the office in Morol, that there's a small floor that if you go to the top floor, you can't stand also properly. So झुक के बैठना पड़ेगा. And our tech team used to sit there. And why tech team used to sit there? Because उसी में AC था. बाकी से tech को AC मिलेगा, बाकी non-tech सब नीचे बैठेंगे. And we were very frugal. We hired, I kept saying this, and I think a lot of other GrowthX videos also have said this, that the biggest mistake that we made is we hired for roles with the requirement at that point in time. Like, and then when things started scaling, people could not scale. And then we got into things. And as a founder, I think we were enjoying being busy so much, right? Ki yaar busy hai, you're taking calls, that we actually lost the whole tangent that how this business could be big, right? And and then we took some really harsh calls in terms of, okay, we'll shut it down, start something else. And then we reached a point that we realized ki yaar, this will not work. And we had some capital left with us. So he said ki yaar, it's better we give that capital back to our investors so that they can put it back to some other companies rather than wasting it on us. So we did that. We closed it down and moved to Swiggy. Yeah, but I still remember there were days where I used to stay in Chandivali, Pavai area, and our warehouse was in Villeparle. And the goal was to be on the bike at 3:30, get up at 3:30, go onto the bike, to Villeparle, park bike there, then sit in a tempo, go to APMC, reach there by 5, and then procure the things, come back and do this, right? And of many days, one day was so frustrating that I was just traveling, and there used to be this 3:30, 4 a.m. flight every day from Mumbai to Zurich, Switzerland, which I used to take when I was in Geneva, right? I was going this and that flight was flying. I just couldn't stop crying. I said, what is happening? Right? Because obviously things were not working well and all of that. कि यार मैं bike पे जा रहा हूँ. How this? And this was my life. I used to take this flight and go to Zurich and do this. And what I'm doing this year. I also remember one case where my grandmom and parents, everybody came to Bombay just before couple of days before my birthday. And I was writing down at 11:30, 12, one of the restaurants and calling me and saying ki 50 nimbu, 5 kilo ye, aur ye. And my mom was like, yaar, you did IIT for this, 50 nimbu, this and that. And it was very difficult at that point in time for me to tell my mom and for my mom also to see me ki yaar, how this could translate into maybe something slightly better like what it is today, right? बहुत difficult था. But what I think how we got shaped as people in truth, the limitations that we got to know about us, the potential that we got to know about us, I think that was like, if I have to do this, I'll do this all over again, despite all the pains that we had. Like when you enter our house, कहीं पे आपको आलू दिखते होंगे, ये था, it was a mess. My wife never said a word, but those 2 years were very difficult. We were drawing 25,000 salary, and but a lot of things we as a founders, what we learned, visibility to us, knowing a lot of angels, right, people who are trusting us, is now all coming back at stable money, right? Like I remember, I don't know if you remember that Ranjana ka ek bahut favorite scene hai jahan pe this guy is going and the same childhood person is running back, right? I feel that like whenever I am struggling or I feel things are working really well or not working well, I just see myself in that truth and said कि यार ऐसी चीज़ों में हमने बहुत सारी गलतियाँ की और कुछ चीज़ें अच्छी की. I just keep taking learnings from that and execute that at stable money. But yeah, that's about truth, and then we landed into Swiggy.
How did that happen? So you shut it down.
Yeah.
You gave the money back.
Yeah.
And then Swiggy happened.
No. So actually,
what was I missing?
So 1 year into Truce, one random day I got a message from Harsha. It says, hey, I am Harsha. I still have that message. Hey, I am Harsha and I am the CEO of Swiggy. I wanted to chat with you and this and that, because maybe they were also thinking, they were also very new at that point in time. This was 2015, right? Just 1 or 2 years into this, maybe Series A or Seed. And they were thinking कि हम restaurants के साथ क्या कर रहे हैं, all of that. I said कि यार अभी नहीं यार Harsha, I'm very busy in this. But then we started looking for acquisition opportunities for us, and that's where I pinged Harsha again and said कि यार, why don't you think of acquisition? This could be very relevant business for your business as well. And he said कि come down, and we started that conversation, but it got closed at a point saying that okay, right now that's not the priority for us, but we like you folks, you guys can come, but we don't want to acquire the business. I said okay, we shut it down separately and got we hired our team. Not everybody moved to Bangalore, but me, Kedar moved to Bangalore, and that was 6 years back. And Kedar is leaving Swiggy now.
Okay.
On maybe 18th August. Still there.
Still there. You said something very interesting about Kedar a while back. You said Kedar stud tha.
No, Kedar stud hai. I'm just saying that my thought then कि यार Kedar इतना stud है तो मैं कैसे, how will I convert Kedar to make like ask him to work with me, and why will he say yes? But yeah, Yeah, stud thumbs also because when you know each other so well,
Yeah.
then you think कि यार कोई stud नहीं है भाई हम सब same हैं. So that's the reality. But yeah, no, we are thick friends now. He's starting his own venture.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm sure he'll do amazing.
And then Saurabh joins a company.
Yeah.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Gets bored.
Yeah.
Has some kida.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I'm going to become a founder now.
Right.
You start something.
Right.
You do that.
Right.
Goes well, does this thing.
Right.
2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm switching it off. I'm working for someone. Right? And you do that, and then it's cyclic. It's very cyclic, right?
Yeah.
So, and we are back in the cycle, right?
Yes.
We're back in the cycle. We are with Swiggy. What are you thinking? Like, what were you thinking when you joined? Like, why did you even consider it, by the way?
Yeah, so first we had couple of options. We had one option with Swiggy. We had one option to join AgroStar, which was in Pune. And to be very honest, both of us were considering going to Pune. It's close to Bombay. Pune is like a family. तो वहाँ जाएंगे. सब clear था, but the interviews that happened at Swiggy, we spoke to the team and we realized कि यार, this is the team to work with, right? All very young folks, a lot of growth. We could learn a lot of things from them, and eventually if they want to do something around our business, we'll have those capabilities so we can build it for them. But it was in Bangalore, so we said कि अच्छा ठीक है करेंगे. And I just had a son, एक साल हुआ होगा, and said कि यार, how do we do this? Because my wife was working in Bombay, family was in Bombay, everything was in Bombay. So then they said, let's sort of go, this is a good opportunity. Go be in Bangalore, we'll be here. एक साल देखो, ठीक लगता है तो हम आते हैं, otherwise you come. And that entire 1 year of Swiggy, every Friday 8:40 p.m. flight from Bangalore to Bombay, and morning 6:40 or 6:30 jet airways from Bombay to Bangalore. I did that without, I think, barring 2 weekends, every weekend. I used to do that. I just go back with the family, come back. I used to stay in a PG here, BTM layout. So that was the year, but like we never, and that was again the time, right? You be in office early in the morning, work on as many things possible as you can, try and get as many things on your plate as you can, try and do justice to some of those work and do this. So that was the Swiggy wala journey, and obviously the idea was ki it's such a big organization, right? Like that kind of scale even I have not seen at Fractal, because Fractal is a kind of enterprise where you have a lot of people in Bombay, and then there is one Kolkata office, one Delhi office, and one office in US, and a lot of places, right? So together it's a big company, but when you see day in day out, it doesn't look that. Swiggy was 2 floors, right, fully packed, right? That was like a big scale for us at that point in time, and we were coming from a chota sa office, 2 floors. From this was like we were really excited about how things were. Obviously, after 2 years of 20,000 salary, यहाँ पर salary set की चलो यार थोड़ा सा settle it down.
Plus Swiggy के ऑफिस में आलू का बैग नहीं था साइड.
आलू का बैग नहीं दिखता था साइड में, and everything used to happen at tech. You don't have to get up at 4 and go to APMC. So all of that was there, and plus they give us the Mac. Right, so I still think that how these things matter so much, but I'm sure if I go back to my team and ask that intern कि यार तुझे Mac मिला कैसा लग रहा है, I think he might feel the same way that I felt. And these things matter. So I think that was the goal, that see the scale, do the things properly, and one thing that we did not do, right, and we were not thinking at all when we were at Swiggy, is to keep circling back on what you did wrong, right? As a founder or as a company or as a team at Swiggy. But I think that was one piece which was parallelly running in our head, right? When we were seeing certain things happening, me and Kedar used to come out and ask each other, यार ये ऐसे किया यार अपन तो क्या करते हैं, right? And that started building a lot of things for us, that we as a founders were not, like, though we were right place at the right time, right? And interestingly, we would have continued Truce for 6-8 more months. 1/4 of our GMB company got acquired by Zomato and became Hyperpure. Right? So we don't know, like, sure, like obviously a lot of such things, but So we had a lot of learning, seeing Harsha, a lot of other folks, that how they are running the company, how they are building the team, how they are focusing on the right thing and not focusing on the everything, right? So those things we learned, and Vivek came. I got a chance to work with Vivek, and I know this whole expansion story is out there for so long that we scaled from 300 to 500 cities. But yeah, that was a crazy ride. And then again, after 2.5 years, that thought came on what do we do next?
How you scale
Swiggy. Yeah.
Swiggy.
So Swiggy scaling was a very critical part, and that's where I think I was doing a chief of staff role, and that was my first time as a chief of staff role. It's 2017, and there was no playbook on what is chief of staff, right? And the only thing that I knew is chief of staff works very closely with the executive that you are working with, and it's important what executive wants, right? Make that executive more efficient in terms of their role and the output. And my first goal was that get Vivek up to speed onto how Swiggy works very quickly, right? So I had to plan everything around that. And once that was set up, we parked that, okay, this part of the work will be more on the new initiatives, this part of the work on managing what is happening on a day-to-day thing, and this part of the work is the firefighting. That was the three broad section that mostly the chief of staffs would work on. That what are the new initiatives, what is breaking and what is running. You just run it like a machine at that point in time. So, and in the new initiative, we got the project on how do we scale Swiggy from 30 cities to 500 cities, right? And that was the opportunity where the team that I was working with in terms of who was building the expansion, we got together and looked at multiple data points to come up with a plan for him. And one thing I realized that at any point in time, when you are doing things which are not just the extension of what you have been doing, then you need different people into that, right? If you are starting a project which is not just 2x of what you have done in the past, but it is 100x of what you have done in the past, the same team will not be able to deliver this, right? And it's not because of their capabilities, it's actually because of their baggage that they have. You need fresh minds, you need fresh ideas, you need a lot of outside in thinking to do that. And that's when first time the current expansion team built the plan, right? We built the plan which is 5x of what we were doing. But the idea is to go 100x of what we are doing. We were launching one city every 7 months. And eventually we launched 7 cities a month in a day, right? So if we had to go that scale, right? It's very difficult for the current team because you will always have a baggage of what has not worked.
And this doesn't work. We can't do this,
right? And who is changing that mindset? You feel that, okay, tech will not support, operations will not support because you thought that's how it has worked in the past. And that's where we said that, okay, we need to change the team, right? We need to take the components of the things which are very critical, big learnings for us. And we took that. And that we took as some part of the team members from there who will teach us how to do those things very fast. We built a new team completely, and that's where we got our first intern to say, how do we look at the cities, right? And we said, if we have to go beyond Bangalore or Bombay or Pune or Chennai or Hyderabad, you need to think like that user, right? I said, the best source is the people around you, right? And Swiggy was almost 1,000 employee team. We said that, okay, let's talk to everybody. We started mapping individual employees and their hometowns, their college towns, and started mapping, okay, these are the people. And we started talking to everybody in the team, saying that, tell us more about the city. Do you think there is a scope? You know how Swiggy works. Will people have that kind of a mindset and everything? And we started mapping down those cities and created clusters out of that, right? Then we started putting some outside in perspective onto that, right? Like, so we looked at the biggest decision maker when it comes to food is the mom in the family, right? And mom in the family will not be happy, or wife of that family will not be happy to outsource the only job that she's so proud of.
That's her identity, right?
That's her identity. Yeah. How do you give that role to Swiggy? Right? So he said, okay, that's not the positioning we want to do. We want to say that, okay, one part of your meal, right, which you are not able to do, which will complete that meal, make everybody happy, right, is what we'll start offering. And so that's how we started.
So what part was that? Desserts?
It was the dessert. It started with dessert, or it was some very urgent need from the kid saying that, okay, I want to eat chola. You know, chola, you have to soak it. You can't get it done immediately. She's okay. Then you get some of those pieces, right? So that's what we have started focusing on. Then we also started looking at who will buy from Swiggy, right? Not what will they buy. And we looked at very interesting data of washing machines. So we said that any family who is spending money to buy a washing machine, right, is spending money to give the housewife or give the mom some more time by spending money.
Yeah.
That will be the family who will spend money to give her a break from that cooking for a part of time.
Yeah.
And that's how we looked at the data, and the cities that came in were very different. And we started mapping those cities. We started putting insights from the people that we have spoken to. We started looking at then another data point. So around how many people have looked at open Swiggy from different cities. So you know where is the demand, what people are looking at. So I believe whenever we look at things which is like a hockey stick kind of a growth that we were talking, you need to have people who are not from that background, right? You need to see somebody, you need somebody who is seeing it from very outside in kind of thing, and that will give you the growth. And then you need to put the check metrics saying that, okay, these are the things that is not possible. These are the things that maybe that we can't do. And that will come from the existing team who has done it. And the third most critical point is the data point. Try and see as many data points as you get from internal sources, external sources. There are a lot of free sources available, and try and merge it together before you actually go out and start executing things.
So, like, tell me about this. You just said, the second thing is people saying internally that ye nahi ho sakta. This is your kind of wall, the kind of How do you know that itself is not a mindset of assumptions versus, like, again, that's rooted into some sort of practical data point? Like, how do you know that, again, that belief or that saying, hey, you know what, don't do ads, or hey, you know what, like, ye nahi ho sakta. Like, we can't launch more than, like, how do you know that that's practical on a technology side or on a doable side versus like this is exactly what I'm fighting?
Absolutely.
How do you differentiate between
So I think the most critical thing is the person that you have got who has no experience of doing that thing. That person's role is to ask every question that is possible to see if this is really not possible or this is just a myth. We have not tried it, and that's why this is our thing. I'll tell you one example. Onboarding a restaurant without going to a city was not possible. Everybody said कि यार देखो restaurant onboard करने में किसी भी city में कम से कम 15 दिन लगेंगे. 15 दिन क्यों लगेंगे? Because when you get into that, first going to that city, mapping those restaurants, then once you map those restaurants, be setting up meetings with them. Generally, you take 1 or 2 days to set up meeting. Then they will go back, check, sign the agreement, onboard the restaurant, teach them how the tab works, how to select the menu, putting the menu onto this. This is a 15-day task that has to happen there. You are telling them for the first time, right? So you have to be present there. That was the myth where I started questioning, why can't I do some part of the work from HQ? How do you know the restaurants? Okay, I know the restaurants because there is a listing platforms where all the restaurants are listed. So I will know that. Second, I know a lot of people from that city. They'll tell me which are the big restaurants, right? Why do I have to land in the city to keep running around for 4 days to know that which is the best restaurant available? Third is, these restaurants already know Swiggy. They know Swiggy is a food delivery business, right? Why will it take us so much time to convince them for 2 to 3 days, right? The only challenge is how to train them, right? Which we said, okay, in certain cities, we'll have to go first. But in a lot of cities, we will go after our competitor has gone into that city. Because competition will put all the required things to teach the restaurants, and then it's just a different UI that they have to follow. And we started doing it from here. So I'm saying the person who is being tasked to do this exponential growth, right, is the most important part. And that selection becomes very, very critical. Like we are doing a lot of things which will come to saying that, okay, how do we solve this? And the person who is doing that particular project, I ensure that person has never done that task in the past, but has abilities to ask a question, is very curious on when you say no, why are you saying no, right? That becomes very critical. Otherwise, if that person is not the right person, right, you will not be able to achieve the same scale that other people have achieved in the past, right? Because you will try and do a lot of different things which genuinely either will not work or could have worked, but that person never tried. So that I'm saying the team becomes very, very critical. That's that point.
I think there's a common theme, right? Like, I think it's just true even right off a stable, then
No, team is the most important thing. It's not the idea. If you go to VCs, you go to companies, you go to executives, you go to founders, I don't think anybody would say P0 as other than team. Person. It's the most critical thing. Identifying the right person for the right role, I believe, is a $1 billion startup that will come out of that.
How do you do it? How do you?
First, I think I know who I am, right? And what works for me. So that's the first filter that I have, that I want somebody who is 1, 2, 3, right? That's the first thing. So that filters.
We can discuss that.
Yeah, we discussed that. So that's the first filter, and we said that, okay, this is the person who is being shortlisted. Second is, I think the most important thing for me is the background, right? What this person has worked. That you try and cover it in the interview, that what this person has worked and what are the kind of questions that you ask. Like the most important question that I ask is the situation in which people have really said that they have failed. They were not able. I have seen a lot of people struggle to tell me what has failed for them, like what they did not deliver, right? Because a lot of people are so full of themselves, right? It becomes very difficult to go back and think that, hey, I did not do this well and I could have done this much better. So I think some of these questions on what has happened in the background and what has not worked for you is very important. And the third part is, which is the most critical part, is the ref checks, right? So that has coming out to be a very, very big theme.
Talk to me about that. Talk to me about ref checks.
Yeah. So I have realized very clearly at Swiggy and Navi that ref checks plays a very critical role on the person. What that person tells you or what you assess in those 2, 3, 4 hours is very small part of, it's just to check the very hygiene pieces. जो बोला है वो सही है या नहीं है. That I don't think anybody is faking these days. It's very clear. And if you just do the interview, I believe that people are smart enough to crack every interview these days. Unless it's a technical interview. But when it comes to ref check is when you start getting a lot of meat, right? And the ref check should happen 2 ways. First is you ask people to help you with a lot of connects where you can go and do the ref checks. And then there are discrete ref checks that we start doing, right? First part of ref checks, I have seen a lot of people are discarding because saying कि यार ये ref check में तो उसी ने दिया है, so this person will tell only good things about that. But what I've realized, that is also very important, because if you see any red flag from those people, then it's a clear no. Right? Because you have selected that person and that person is also giving some red flags. Now the only question is, how do you start? And in my every ref checks, I start with the position that I don't want to hire this person. Right?
Okay.
So I like, if I'm, for example, doing ref check for Adhar, I will go and talk to people that Adhar has shared with me, and my mindset is I don't want to hire Adhar. What are the questions I need to ask? And I ask them, okay, where this person has failed. What do you think is the area of development for that person? What do you think this person could have done better? If you want to give one feedback to this person, what will you give? And when you keep asking only these questions rather than asking where he's good at, what he's good at doing, right? there will be some point where there is a crack and you will get the real meat, because a person can't lie for so many times.
Yeah.
Right. So, and if you see a red flag there, that's a clear no. And that's the first thing that I do. Then I do the discrete ref checks, because that's a little harder to do. And once if there is a filtering that happens here, then you do a discrete ref checks, where a lot of people through LinkedIn and all that, you can reach out and ask for discrete ref checks. Especially in startup, it has become a little easier because the ecosystem is so close. That's primary, secondary, tertiary circle में कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ मिल जाता है. Right? Those are the people who will be very critical. Will you hire this person again? And the answer is generally not binary. It's not yes or no. Right? When you say that yes, then you have to ask why. In today's company, where will you put this person? Right? What kind of a role this person would do? Will you give the hike? Right? What kind of position will you hire that person? So when you start going deeper onto general question that everybody has told us to ask, I think that's where you start getting the meat. Then you explain, when you give the discrete situation, that okay, this is my task, this is my role, this is my expectations. Do you think this person will be able to do justice to this, right? When you put a lot of emphasis on the user, saying that, hey, Adhar, I value your input so much, and your input will decide whether I hire this person or not, where your input will decide whether this core project will succeed or not. That person takes a lot of liability, saying that no, I have to be right, honest in doing this. So, and that's why I believe that ref checks generally you say is a 5-10 minute task. It's actually bigger or longer than the interview. It should be like a podcast where you ask people saying that कि मुझे बताओ यार, like tell me about the interactions that you have had with this person, which all projects you have seen it, how does he behave in the meeting, when the things are not going right, because all these situations will happen. And if somebody is saying that this person is so perfect that there is no gaps, then you know that this is not the right feedback. But it's very difficult to lie consistently in ref checks. So these are the 3 parts in which we do this. But despite this, what I've seen is I've made a lot of mistakes, right? That everything goes well.
Yeah.
But the kind of culture that you have, the kind of timing that you have, or the kind of project that person is working on is not for that person. Because it's not because that person is wrong. Maybe that person and you yourself has misunderstood what is exactly required in this role, right? A lot of people are good product manager, but a 0 to 1 product manager is very different from a 10 to 100 product manager. And in those cases, when you see early signs, right, I think it's better to part ways sooner than later.
Oh, we come to that.
Yeah.
I think you learned that from someone.
Yeah.
So
I have learned that, and it's a good learning. But so I think, see, despite this process that you follow, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I'm saying, so it's an iterative process. I don't think anybody would tell you that there is a magic formula to hire the right person. If you have a 25% success rate on hiring, I would say you have a great success rate. Like 1 out of 4 will be a good hire for you. Great hire for you for that project, for that point in time. Right? So, well, generally I have seen other founders of the company says 10%, 15%. They just hold on to that person for a very long period of time. That's a different problem. But a good success rate is 1 out of 10 is a good candidate for that role.
And very quickly, I want to kind of dig deeper into, you said something along the lines that, hey, Adhar, I am always trying to look at the future, right? So I'm not hiring for now, I'm hiring for the future. How do you do that? Like, how do you, as a founder, how do you even envision a future ki yaar ye hoga meri company ke saath? Like, this is the direction it's going to head. This is like, you have to have that conviction first.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go ahead and kind of look at those skill sets.
Yeah.
So do you see again that they are able to mold themselves to that space because they've done something in the past which proves that?
Yeah.
Am I kind of in the right direction? Or like, so how do you do that?
Yeah. So in terms of scaling or when the times are changing, it's more about ambiguity, right? How this person behaves when it is not clear what is to be done, how this person behaves when there is ambiguity is the most important thing. The best way to check this is to go in the past and see that where are those cases where this person has dealt with an ambiguity, where it was not clear what is to be done, but still took the leap of faith and tried doing that, right? So that's the first sign that could give us this. And the second sign, I believe in this whole process is sometimes it's a very gut call, right? That कि ये बंदा शायद कर लेगा, like in terms of the way he's answering the question, in terms of the changes that he's making. Like for example, I know when I ask somebody for the product role, I ask him, if after 3 months I ask you to do a business role, will you do that? If I ask you to do growth role, will you do that? If I want you to do the digital marketing role, will you do that? And I do the same. And whenever somebody says no is a red flag for me. Right? Even though somebody wants to just build a career in the product manager, people have to be very open to do this things. And for me, that's a very critical sign saying that I'm okay to do a lot of role as long as it is important for the company. And that for me is a good sign. So I always check with everybody that आज product करना है, but कल growth भी करना पड़ेगा तो चले. And obviously people will not have a black and white answer. They'll say that I will not leave product, but I'll put extra effort to do growth. Right? I will not leave growth, but I'll put extra effort to do customer support. Right? So that's the sign that I want from the user, which says कि okay, ठीक है, चलो ये कर सकते. And there are a lot of people, good folks, we have said no to. They said कि no, I just want to do product, and I just want to do growth product. Right? I just want to do product marketing. Right? These are certain things which is a little red flag.
For now, because that's the stage the company is. Like eventually, of course, that makes sense.
That makes sense because obviously, but then that becomes the problem of the head of that function. It's not your problem.
Yes. True that.
Yeah. So I think these are certain things that we do and then still make mistakes in hiring. I don't think anybody has cracked hiring for that.
Let's go back to Swiggy and Vivek Sundar, right?
Yeah.
I think you were one of the first people to talk to him.
Yeah.
How was it working with him? How was he as the hire?
I think Vivek comes from massive experience of 20 years of P&G, and everybody was scared that, okay, first, whether it'll be a good culture fit, not a good culture fit, and all of that, right? I'm sure, like, I also realized that same anxieties with Vivek as well, that will I fit in well? This is a startup and all of that, right? So for both of us, that was a great interaction, initial 3-6 months when he was in, I think, Kenya, I was here. To talk around the company, what everybody and all of that. But I think eventually things picked up really well because he comes from a company, P&G, which is a customer first company. Swiggy is also a customer first company. It's just the processes in which you get things done is a little different. So I believe that is where things really worked. Like when you talk about a problem statement and look at, okay, what customer really wants, and this is what we need to solve. If you can identify that problem statement, I don't think whether that person comes from the large setup or a small setup really matters. But if you're looking for a very operational role for somebody, right, then that matters. Like the more away that you go from a customer, right, for a specific role because there is a requirement, then I think you can hire from the big companies or the small companies, it will all be same. But when you are hiring from the core customer focused organization or the functions, you need to find somebody even from the bigger company who has really done that. And that's where some of these ITC, P&G, HUL kind of executives are really done well when it comes to startups. But maybe some other companies would be a tricky piece.
Yeah.
So I think that has worked for Swiggy, that has worked for Vivek.
Yeah.
Being customer first.
That worked for you as well.
That absolutely worked for me. I've not seen, I've not worked so closely with anybody who's so customer obsessed but the unique insights that you get about the customers, how do you think about that is very critical. And I think my misconception, and a lot of people have that misconception, that being customer first is just sitting, looking at the data and think what customer is doing and why he is doing or why she is doing that. I think the most important task is to go back and keep talking to the customers and connect the dots. Like why somebody is saying no, that, okay, no, I don't want Swiggy. is it really about the health of the individual? And you say कि अच्छा एक बहुत healthy restaurant से आप खरीदोगे क्या? She will still say no, right? You really have to then go dig deeper and understand what is the real psyche behind that person doing what they are doing. So that is a talent. I have seen a lot of companies say customer first. A lot of people say we are customer first, but then look at the data and just do that. I think one point I've seen is if you are not talking to the customer, you are not customer first, right? And in our company, I will tell you that at Stable Money, we are talking to 25 customers a day, right? And this is the bare minimum that we are doing every day. And whatever we have built so far is from that. And we take a lot of pride in saying that we are customer first. And similarly, that has happened with Navi, right? I'll tell you that Sachin goes through so many customer calls every week, every day, going through the call recordings or doing calls by himself, talking to the customers and distilling that to the product team, saying then this is what the customers are saying. Unless top level is doing this, it's very difficult for everybody else.
I think this is one of my learnings. So I was on the front-facing sales side of role for a while, right? So for me, I mean, that was every day, right?
Yeah.
But then when I'm moving now into, like, it's been a while, of course, not now, but GrowthX taught me that, right?
Yeah.
Like that whole capstone part about, reaching out to 130 users, collecting over like 3,000 data points from them.
Yeah.
That rigor and the kind of insights that happens, like nothing can really, there is no other solution but to do that. And it's hard work to put yourself out there, to have, your customers break your product in like 2 sentences and you kind of question what you're doing and what you're making.
Right.
But at the same time, that's exactly the kind of validation that allows you to make and build something that's relevant.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, like, I totally hear you there.
No, absolutely. And like my first exposure to being customer first was along with Swiggy, but still I was on the front line when we started the Navi Mutual Fund, right? And so many insights that we got from the customers, which actually shaped the entire 10-year plan. And when we started Navi Mutual Fund, people might think that we have a 6 months, 1 year plan. We actually had a 10-year plan and we are following that plan.
Wow.
So, and all of that is being built by spending a lot of time with customers. And you will be amazed how people think about mutual fund, where for the last 7-8 years, what everybody in India is doing is just mutual funds. Mutual fund sahi hai.
Yeah.
But still what they know about mutual fund is very different from what we all think. Right. So I think customer being...
Tell me more about that.
So I'll give you one example. So in mutual funds, you have to do NFOs, right? New fund offering.
Yes.
In stocks, you do IPOs.
Yes.
Right. It's a similar thing. NFO is the subscription that, okay, this kind of product will attract a lot of customers.
Yeah.
So SEBI has put a limit saying that you do NFO, you do marketing and get me X amount minimum for you to be eligible to go live with everybody.
Oh.
So that is done, and we have seen when we have done our first NFO and Navi Nifty 50, we have garnered 100 crores, and we said कि अच्छा बहुत अच्छा काम किया. Like so many people understand the product, and we have seen on day one 20% of the people started selling mutual fund.
Okay.
And I said, why is this happening? I started calling people and said कि sir, day one पे आपको return मिलता है ना? And they thought IPO is similar to NFO. And that is the understanding of people who have been doing mutual funds and stock for so many days.
Wow.
Right? And so I'm saying for you, it becomes very critical. And we said that we will take that as an opportunity for people to go and tell, saying that NFO is not IPO. Right? And this is what you can do. And it's okay if you don't invest when the NFO is live. It's okay if you invest on the day one of the NFO, right? And that built the trust. It is very counterintuitive for any other AMC to go and say that, okay, don't invest in NFO. You must have seen Nitin Kamath saying that NFO में invest करने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं, you can do it on the first day, right? We said that we will take a path of building the trust, but for that you need to really understand the customer. And that's why I believe that why Navi Mutual Fund in the next 10 years will succeed so much, because maybe it will be one of those very, very few AMCs who are so customer obsessed and working backwards. Like people who are looking to do mutual funds. They said कि यार नावी तो नाम सुना नहीं है, right? टाटा सुना है, ये आदित्य बिरला सुना है, और ICICI सुना है, HDFC सुना, नावी नहीं सुना है. Okay, what do we do? Right? First, whatever marketing we can do, we'll do. We said कि but हम अभी ticket size 10 रुपए करते हैं.
Oh, okay.
Which was a 500 or 1,000 rupees for any other AMC. Navi is the first one to say that we will do it in 10 rupees. Right? Because we want you to come and try small. और जब 10 रुपए से करना है ना, I'll say okay, यार try करता हूँ.
But 10 रुपए वाला जो user है, right? Like you just, because of that, you just change your user base as well.
You also change your user base, but I think the goal is also that. Like I want to be the first mutual fund for the new people who are coming into this. My product is simple. India के top 50 company में डाल. It's not blue chip, large cap, this cap. People don't know. He said कि सबसे सस्ता है, 10 रुपए में आप इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो और इंडिया के टॉप 50 कंपनीज में कर सकते हो. स्टार्ट डूइंग दैट एंड दीज आर द यूजर्स हु आर नॉट डूइंग ओनली विद 10, देन दे आर डूइंग एवरी डे विद 10, राइट? सो देयर इज scaling these users is another task, I know, but it's an easy problem to solve than not having that customer. And that will be the problem, and that's been the problem for a lot of other AMCs we have seen, where people have said कि अच्छा इस AMCs का नाम नहीं सुना है. Then you have to go to a lot of big clients and garner a lot of big aim from there to say कि अभी मेरे पास 500 करोड़ है अब आओ. I think so. Some of those things, working customer backed is the really critical piece, which all of us miss. Right? That what do you do? And we'll talk about some of those insights that we have seen from our stable money as well. When we talk about
I'm so eager to talk about that, and that's going to be like a That's just a podcast in itself.
So I think sorry, we started from Vivek, but I think being customer first, if somebody's there, then I don't think it really matters where that person is coming from.
Let's actually, this is a beautiful transition. I was like quietly saying this is a very seamless transition to Navi, right? Like something I wanted to take, and you know what? Let there be some mystery on how it happened, right? You know, like some things can be covered later, right? Let there be some mystery. Let's talk about it because now we're in it. Like we're talking about Navi. What was going on there? Like how was Sachin Bansal? What was the vibe there? Why? Like, what were you building there, and what were your insights around the market? We spoke about users right now, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about the fintech market in India. Like, what's happening there? How do you look at it?
Oh, so I think the most important thing I realized getting into fintech was that whenever I was looking at Navi and talking to a lot of people outside as well of Navi, I think we see that there is a very large transition between the cultures, right? Being a very dhanda oriented, how much commission, how much margins I am making versus being a very customer first. That's the first delta I've seen. And obviously it was obvious, but it becomes very, it gives you a lot of color when you start talking to people saying that, okay, this is how everybody's looking at commission, but this is where one company is looking at customers. And a lot of fintechs just focused on customer, they'll make money later. That was one thing that was happening, right? A lot of customer first companies are coming and targeting the users who are generally used to very traditional fintechs or financial institutes. Second is the regulations are changing very fast. So RBI, SEBI, IRDI, all the regulators are working really hard in making customers the real center. They should not be losing money. They should be the one who should be prioritized. Things have to be very clear to the customers. So those are the things that are happening. I thought ki a combination of these two puts Navi in a very bright spot along with the capital that Navi had, that okay, this is the company who could actually have that escape velocity and be much ahead of all the other fintechs, and that's what they did. Right? So that to me became very evident in the first 3 months of getting into Navi. Obviously, everybody joined Navi because of Sachin, like everybody, being the customer support executive to me, to everybody joined Navi because of Sachin. But then that's end. You think, oh, Sachin will be somebody who sits in the cabin and does the work. It's not like that. He'll be sitting next to you on the table, be part of all the things involved. He's very heads down and very hands-on on things, right? He'll be part of a lot of those meetings where you're making decisions on everything. So there was a lot of interaction, energy, vibe, speed of decision making that was there at Navi. And that's why in just a couple of years, they did so many acquisition and started getting into so many businesses so fast, because obviously there was enough data, enough logic required, but decision making, because these are big decisions, is also important, right? I think with Sachin, it was really fast to make some of those decisions. So, and that's where it gave a lot of opportunity for all of us to just because of the sheer capital that we had and the businesses that we had to run, because we have taken so many fast decisions. I think everybody had a large piece to focus on, like I had for mutual fund. So I think that was the initial like 6 months to 8 months was really exciting. Also, it's important to understand how Sachin works, right? Because as a chief of staff, the most important thing that any chief of staff should do is to first 2-3 months give yourself all out there. Just follow what your executive wants you to do, right? Don't try to put your newer theories or what you have learned in the past into that, right? Just build that trust first with the executive before you start making minor changes in the way things are working. Like, don't try to do everything from day one. Like, don't go and say, I'll change the calendar, how this will work, how the meetings will happen, who will come to you first, what is the communication going to exit. Don't change that. I think that's what was critical for me first 3 months, just to understand how Sachin works. And I realized that he's very to the point guy. Like, talk about the data, talk about the customer, and that's it. We'll make the decisions, right? And I think initially it becomes, I was very wordy in communicating, chahiye ho raha hai, wo ho raha hai, and we said ki no, I think just make a point and just leave it there. So structure thinking is one thing that I started building in the initial 3-6 months, that if I have to communicate this point, these are the 3-4 things in this order I have to tell him. So I actually used to practice before our meeting with Sachin, saying that, okay, step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 and step 4, and that's what you need to communicate. And once you do that, I realized that the decision making and everything is really fast, and that's what I've been following now as well. That if I have to convey anything either to my investors or to anybody else, these are the 3-4 things that I need to talk. So I think structured thinking is one thing that I learned with Sachin. And again, I think once you build trust with him, then he gives you a very long rope to go try things, break things, and come back. If it's okay for him if you make mistakes, as long as you learn and don't repeat those mistakes again with him. And yeah, I think those 6-9 months build that, and got the opportunity to then Navi Mutual Fund, where I think some of the things we already spoke about, how we build the 10-year plan.
How do you think in a structured way? Like, you learned it as a skill.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think structurally. I think I know, but I don't know.
Right.
How do you do that? How do you think structure?
Yeah. So I think a very generic formula that I've seen at a lot of places also is asking the 5 whys. Right. That if we say that Navi Mutual Fund has to go 100% direct and not regular, like direct, you mean there is 0 commission, then why do we need to do that? Why we need to do that is because the share of regular mutual fund is going down and direct mutual fund is going up. Why is that happening? Is because the distributors who are selling the mutual funds, that number is constantly going down. Why the less number of distributors are selling it down is because the SEBI has started putting the rule that the commissions have to reduce for those. And why SEBI doing that? Is because there was so much of mis-selling happening. And when you build this, right, it not only tells you what is the decision, but it also tells you how do you go and market it, right? And that's the last part, is what we started going and marketing to the user, saying that there is so much of mis-selling that happens, right, when somebody tells you this, right? And that's why you should make your own choices. And we have made those choices simple for you. right? These are the 5 funds, do this, right? And that's what I think structured thinking is. Not only what you communicate, it's also how you should execute and why you should execute, right? Because there for every decision making, you will see that in any organization, you keep coming back to that question again. Okay, why did we do that? आज नहीं 6 महीने बाद 8 महीने बाद. But if somebody has done this structured thinking, right, by this, it becomes very easy to always communicate. Otherwise, it goes into that loop again for next 2-3 months. Should we start doing regular again? And then people forget that because they haven't thought this through, right? They'll say, हाँ सोचे, let me get some numbers and do that. But if there is this, they say that, okay, no, there is mis-selling. This will always be mis-sold. And we don't want Navi to be mis-sold to anybody.
The clarity that it comes with, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And this not only, it's very difficult to happen on your own, the structured thinking.
Yeah.
I think you will have to do this as a practice either with your peers, the problems that you have been facing. It's not that now you know 5 whys, so no. I've also given you the easiest example that I have to give you, but there are very complicated problems that you will start facing, right? For that, it's better to do this as a practice, work with somebody and do that, right?
I think it's interesting, right? So, zooming out. Okay, you were chief of staff at Swiggy, you were chief of staff at Navi to begin with, right? How was it different? Like, how were those two different? And how was it, more importantly, how was it common as well?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I think there are multiple definitions of chief of staffs out there.
Yeah.
That, a lot of chief of staffs are also an EA, calendar management. A lot of chief of staffs are very independent EIRs also. But I think all of that depends on the executive that you are working with, right? When I worked with Sachin never wanted the founder's office to be the bottleneck, right? So a lot of reins were given to the team that you make your own call, you make your own decision making. Don't keep coming to the founder's office to the decision making. Plus, anything which is stopped at founder's office has to be immediately cleared. We want to unblock the team, right? So there were lesser things that was actually in our control, right? Lesser things are on our plate. We just have to unblock a lot of things and keep moving things. We were not really working on the project. Like, in a lot of places, you will see that chief of staff is doing a lot of number crunching, and then they will hand it over to the team and then they'll answer that. That was not the case at Navi. That team has to be equipped to do this. Now, there are certain functions or new ideas for which there's nobody who is working on that. Then I used to pick it up and that. At Swiggy, it was very different. At Swiggy, every decision making used to happen with Vivek. He also wants to get involved in a lot of this decision making. So that's how we started operating. Like, you set up the meetings throughout the day and logically that, okay, there's one decision and there are multiple such decisions that happen throughout the day, which goes through Vivek. And to make those decisions faster, right, I have to work with these people to be ready that, okay, this is how Vivek is thinking and this is what you need to do to get the faster answer, right? And you will not get this if you don't do this, right? So this is very different kind of setup. There are a lot of places where Vivek wants me to be involved in that particular project till the time it kicks off, right? That was not the case here, right? But I think one thing which was very common between all of them is the entire objective is to make the executive very efficient. So anything which is making that executive less efficient is on you. Okay. Like whoever or whatever role you are playing, and that is very visible. So that was one. Plus, I think a lot of people think that chief of staff role is the communication between the team and the founder or the team and the executive. That's not true. I think every executive or the founder wants to talk to the team directly. And it is, if it is stopped at the chief of staff, that's what they don't like. Right? So I think that's the similarity between them. That chief of staff is to make things efficient, not to stop the communication between the people. So yeah.
Let's talk about the 10-year plan. Like, I don't have a 10-year plan for my life, man. Like, literally. And I don't know if you do, right? Frankly. Like,
I also don't. Like, looking at me for 2.5 years while I students, it's very difficult.
You have a 2.5 year.
I have a 2.5 year.
So, how does somebody like Sachin think of a 10-year plan for Navi, like for a company? Like, how does that happen? Like, When you figure that out, like, did you even kind of, were you curious or were you like, yeah, ये black box है नहीं समझ रहा, छोड़ दो.
Yeah.
Right? What was it like?
No, I think there are a lot of black boxes even when you make a 10-year plan, but you have a direction set that, okay, this is the direction I want to get into and these are the numbers that will follow. And I'm sure those numbers have changed in the initial few years, will keep changing, but the direction doesn't change much. And we are able to build a 10-year plan just because of the sheer clarity that we had, right? That I know that the 3 crore retail investors who are putting money in the mutual fund is becoming 10 crores in next 5 years, right? तो अगर मुझे पता है इस रेट पे चलने वाला है, then I'm very clear if I'm following that suit, if I'm building for those users, till 10 years, I don't have to change anything. It's just the growth will change here or there, but I don't have to change my entire plan, right? And that 3 crore to 10 crores, our goal was to how do we get those new mutual fund users to do their first transactions on Navi? And that was a simple plan to land onto. But this required us a lot of talking to customers, lot of outside-in thinking of people who have done mutual fund and people who are doing mutual funds, regulators and everything. And that was a 5-pager that we finally presented.
Yeah.
It says that, okay, we will do, these are the 3-4 things that we will do. We will not do this and we will not do certain things till next 6-8 months until we have more data points. So that's what we build as a 10-year plan. Not every time it works. I think for Navi Mutual Fund, especially in the initial few years, it has worked and it's working so far. So I believe, but I think with Sachin, that's the thing, right? Like anybody who has, like Sachin has built Flipkart, he's seen so much down the line, right? It is not very difficult maybe for him to think 10 years. For people like me who have done 2.5 years, to think of a 10-year plan is a task, right? So, and I believe it's a skill that that you need to hone. I don't have it.
I'm going to ask you, like, stable का क्या होने वाला है? 10 years from now.
We have kept it as stable money because we know we'll be there. And I think once you have enough skin in the game, right? Once you get deeper into things, then 1, 2, 4, 5, I think will not be a problem.
So, quickly talk to me about that guy, like the Saurabh who was like 2.5 years in wala scene in Navi, and you're like, okay, you know, I'm the CEO of mutual funds. Didn't really sign up for that. That was one of the 3 things you wrote. And it was the first thing and it happened. What were the other 2? Just very like, do you remember?
I do. I wanted to get into product because I've done business and growth. I wanted to get into product. So I'm sure, I think between second and third, there was one product role that I wanted to do for sure. I don't remember the third one. But for sure, the product was one piece that happened.
And then what happened? Like, here you are in Navi, and then you're like, okay, I've learned some insights. And I've kind of figured out fintech. But there's some piece that I think I can solve on my own, or something like that. What were you thinking? And how did stable really happen?
So actually it didn't start with the idea. It started with the void in myself. It says, ki yaar, I've seen Sachin, I've seen Harsha, I've seen so many people, and I know how they are doing things. And that's when you realize that the kind of mistakes that you have made in the past are so huge, right? You have that itch to solve that mistake, and you have itch to go and prove yourself again. And that is what I was, that was the real hunger. I said, ki nahi, like everybody says this, and I've also said that, ki I want to, a few years down the line, I want to do something of my own, right? But that became a real thing over the next couple of years at Navi. Said, ki, you know, if this is how things are working, I also want to go and prove and see if I do these things, will the output change this time, right? And you always want to prove yourself. And with True's kind of experience, we said, ki nahi yaar, I want to give myself one more chance to do this. And personally, things were settled. I was like limited liabilities at those point in time. So I said, maybe this is a good time for me to get into something which could make a difference, right? Rather than delaying it. And that's always been the focus, that you have that regret minimization framework where you says that, okay, I want to minimize this regret. Like one way it's a Navi mutual fund CEO, another way is to try to build your own company. Couple of years down the line, I'll have limited regrets of starting off my own versus continuing this piece, right? The same thing happened when I was moving from Swiggy to Navi. Said, okay, I will not have I'll have minimum regrets if I tried a new thing with fintech. I have worked with Sachin and learned a lot of things. So I think that's the framework that I followed. And when I left Navi, I had no idea about stable money. I just had idea about fintech.
So chilling at home for a while, figuring this out.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing, right? From my last day, like my first day at JP Capital till now, there is not a single break, right? So I have never taken a break and chill. Like after JP Capital, I came back and started Fractal. The day I left Geneva, I think 30th April or 30, some last date of April, and then to 1st May I joined Tiny Owl. Just landed and went to the office. I left Tiny Owl. Truce was already started. By the time we were closing Truce, Swiggy was already there. The next day I joined Navi. The day I left Navi, the next day I was in a WeWork, Kormangla WeWork, taken that free open space to start thinking. So I'm that kind of person who can't take that break. It's very difficult for me to visualize when people do that. Take a break and then thoda soul searching. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Maybe not now. So that's how I got into these things and opened my laptop on that day fresh and started thinking ki karna kya hai. So I think that's how it happened.
So even that was like work. Yeah, it was also the karna kya hai is what sitting on a beach in Goa, chilling and thinking, but you're like, hey, I'm going to sit on my laptop, I'm going to like think through it rigorously on here are some things, here are some learnings. And here is a gap that I can see. Yeah.
Here are the gaps. This is about me. This is what kind of other co-founder that I want. These are the problem statement that I've seen. These are the different opportunities that people have told me. Now let's just start mapping it. Like I started with a SaaS idea as well. Right? And then slowly got into this whole fintech wala piece, and it's very organic way of figuring out those things. So
talk me through that mind map. Like, I so want to like see that Notion doc. I so want to actually, talk me through that. Like exactly how did stable get born? Like where are you at right now? Like what are some of the frameworks which you have looked at? Okay, ye assumptions hai, ye hai. This is like what were these pieces?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I think the biggest thing that happens with a lot of people who wants to start something of their own, they come with a recency, right? There is a lot of recency bias ki yaar maine jo abhi kiya hai, I want to do something in continuation to that, right? Because that's very logical in doing those things, right? So before leaving Navi, I was doing a small project on SaaS where Navi was trying to enter into the SaaS business. I was trying to do that, right? And then and obviously the first idea in my mind is ki SaaS karte, because I have done a lot of research onto that. Let me figure it out. And then the first framework is I've taken a very small idea that I want to do work and looked at the potential clients who would need that, like whether an individual, whether a small company and all of that, and started speaking to some of those users whether they need this. And that's where I realized that though some of those solutions will be required for the users, I really don't enjoy B2B, right? So that was the first thing that I realized of doing that. So then from that piece, but then I started, when you start talking to so many people, you figure out more problems. From the SaaS piece, we got into, can this SaaS be built for the fintech companies, sales people, right? So I started talking to a lot of sales people who are selling the financial products, right? And then we realized that rather than building SaaS, why don't we build the full stack? Right? That you are selling that to the direct consumers. And that's how we got into stable money, where you are not only selling it to the direct consumer, but someday you will be the manufacturer of that product as well. So build the whole supply chain. And I think this is an evolving process. The best thing that has worked for me is to talk to people who have done it, but not only to talk to people who have done it successfully, talk to more people who have failed at doing those things, right? So with every idea, I actually went back and looked at what are the startups which were into this particular field. I went like GrowthX, some of these community helped me find those people who have done some of these work and have failed. And that's where that gave me a bigger perspective on what could not work than this. Like, for example, if I have to go back and think about the rules, I can tell somebody that these are the 15, 20 things that you should not do, right? And I thought there will be a lot of people who will tell me this. And that's how we got into the whole stable money wala idea.
Yeah. So let's actually, let's zoom out and ask ourselves, what's stable? Like, just explain to me, what's stable? Like, for all of us, actually.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the problem statement that we have identified. So when we were talking to a lot of users who were buying mutual fund for the first time, right? We said there is this is Navi mutual fund, which we want to be your first mutual fund when you try, right? And there were two things happening. Grow has built, right, what users are going and buying their first mutual fund, any mutual fund on Grow. Zerodha has become where you are buying and investing in your first stock. People are using Swiggy, people are using Zomato, people are using Ola, people are using Uber. But the same user who is doing investments like this, who have seen amazing app experiences like this, when it comes to their fixed return, personal finances ka jo 70% hai, right? They are using a very traditional ways, either going to banks and booking, going to net banking and booking their FDs, or going to some wealth advisor to ask for a bond and signing the papers and giving it there. And we said that this is a bigger gap where there is not a single platform which is giving you as seamless experience as Swiggy, as Zerodha, as Grow, but is focused on fixed return products, right? Which is the largest set of your investment. With sovereign gold bond, government bond, corporate bonds, FDs, debt mutual fund, anything that is a fixed return product. And said that is the need that we saw. And the emotion that we realize, Adhar, when it comes to these people, right? These people feel very smart when they do Grow. When these people feel very smart when they do Zerodha, and these people will tell you, मैंने Tata Motors इसीलिए खरीदा, मैंने liquid fund इसीलिए किया, right? But when it comes to fixed return products, they don't feel smart. And he said that is the emotion that we want to target. We want to make people feel smart about their fixed return products as well. It's the same person when it comes to fixed return feels that I'm not making the smart choice. I'm not the expert when it comes to bonds or anything. He said we'll solve that problem. There are a lot of regulatory tailwinds that are coming that way. So combining a lot of these things, we said that this is a good opportunity for us in doing that. Harish, my co-founder, comes from a similar background. I have seen some of these fintechs building. We said that we make a good team and could have a good chance of cracking this problem statement.
But I'm going to agree with you on this. Sort of, like, I still don't understand. Maximum I would go and make an FD or something is maybe once a month. Yeah. So why is there a need for an app? Like I use Golden Pi once in a while, it gets the job done. Right. There are a couple of folks who have these Notion docs where all the latest, updates on FDs and where you can get them and what rates, you kind of go for it. And that's available. Right. So you just go and just, get it done. So where does that need for, maybe I'm myopic or I can't see, like, maybe I'm not a
TG.
Am I a TG?
Yeah, you are also a TG for us. Okay. Like anybody who has been doing any fixed return investment, 20-30% of their portfolio is a TG. Like ideally you should have 20-30% of your portfolio into fixed return products, because what has happened in India is in last 5 years, a lot of users have got online, have started doing investments, right? Because of the whole market. So 70-80% of the new users have come in last 5 years. Now there is the COVID happening, right? A lot of the recession wala pieces happening, right? People have seen so much ups and downs for the first time that I was just talking to a 24-year guy. He said that I was looking at a lot of influencers lost money in crypto, फिर वॉल्ट में कुछ पैसा गया, यहाँ stocks में कुछ पैसा गया, and now I realize the importance of there has to be a balanced portfolio. So first there is that need that is coming in. It's coming faster than the company is realizing that, right? Because obviously there is so much of traction happening in stocks and mutual fund on a day-to-day basis. So that is the first thing. There is an opportunity. Second thing is in terms of options available. Right? The options which are available for top 1% of the wealthy people in India is not available to this. I'll tell you, the wealthy people still have around 35% of their money in fixed deposit or liquid funds. Right? And they don't do like a ICICI or a HDFC, they do that, but they will also distribute it across multiple banks. There are small finance banks which are equally safe, give you 5 lakh insurance like HDFC, up to 5 lakh, but will give you 9% return, where HDFC might be giving you 6% return, right? So that additional 3% return, because of which people are saying it doesn't beat inflation. The top wealthy people do that investments, we don't. So a lot of these options were not available to the set of users which we are trying to bring them onto the
platform. So the insurance is 5 lakhs, right? That's the thing.
Right.
So one of the reasons I've seen like a lot of people not go to these, smaller banks which like offer higher interest is exactly because they're risky. Like they're moving news. I know there was this one in Mumbai, and people go and like the bank is shut and my money, and this whole narrative, right? So people are like, so okay, I'll stick to my ICICI, I stick to my HDFC.
Absolutely.
And of course, they have a large user base, so there is no incentive for them to actually even give you
higher interest
rate, right? So that's the thing. But how are these smaller banks able to afford to give high interest rate in the first place?
So first, like every banks cater to a different target audience. Their revenue model is very different. The loans that they offer are at a different interest rate. And all of these small finance banks, right, whether it is Ujjivan, Utkarsh, any small finance bank that you take, right, which you might have not heard, but in that region is a big bank, right, is being insured up to 5 lakhs, right? And here is where you get 9%, where you don't get it from the big banks. And these smaller decisions, right, moving from 5% to 9% is a small but very important decisions for you to make. And that's where when we see that a lot of people, when their FD gets matured and comes into the bank account again, they feel कि अरे यार ये पैसा पिछले 3 सालों से कुछ नहीं कमाया. Where should I invest? Right, this money. And those are the options that we are trying to get onto the stable money. Your problem is absolutely valid that, hey, this is once a month, once a quarter activity, right? It's not like I open Grow every day and do stocks. How do I do this? But if you see the ticket size on this, ticket size is easily 10 to 20x of the ticket size that goes into stocks and the mutual fund, right? आज 12 करोड़ लोग FD करते हैं. I think 160 lakh crores की FD है. So there is a large ticket size. But if you see, there is still a lot to get catching up, right? Like physical bank में जाना and FD करना is 3 lakh rupees ticket size. 60,000 rupees is the ticket size when people are doing it on net banking, right? So this has to go up. So a lot of people are still adopting tech into doing that. So this for the mass of the India is this. And our goal is that we want to capture this mass of India and sell our first fixed income product to them. Sell our first FD of that user has to be on our platform. First bond that user buys has to be on our platform. First sovereign gold bond that they buy has to be on our platform. So that's the thing. And now the biggest question that everybody asked us is, why can't other companies do that?
Yes.
Is that people have compartmentalized expertise. They have said that equity is a different expertise, mutual fund is a different expertise, debt is a different expertise, right? You will not go and talk about the same problem statement to everybody because iska taxation alag hai, iski risk alag hai, baki sare products ka wo alag hai. And we said that this kind of expertise is what, and right from founders to designers to good engineers to people who are in tier 1, tier 2 city, everybody told us that they don't understand the product well. Like what we say, FD is such a well-known product. People still don't know there is a 5 lakh insurance. This 5 lakh is per user, per bank. It's not overall together. People still don't know what happens when they break FD. We have a lot of users, like even in stable money when they join, right? In interview they said कि if you break FD, तो आपको सिर्फ principal मिलता है, आपको interest rate नहीं मिलता है. Now, why was that happening? Is because their parents were telling them this. Why parents were telling them this? Is because these parents, when they were going to the branches, right, the bank branch people used to tell them this so that they don't break FD. So that has percolated over the last 5, 10, 20 years that breaking FD is a bad thing. Breaking FD will not give you any interest. But breaking FD and reinvesting them into a higher interest rate FD is a smart call. And that's what we're building. So I'm just saying that when people are making smart choices about Ola auto lena hai, Uber lena hai, Zomato पे ये खरीदना है या Swiggy पे ये खरीदना है, Flipkart पे लेना है, Amazon पे लेना है, when it comes to financial decision making, people are losing so much of money, which they shouldn't be losing, right? So that's the thing that we are trying to solve.
That's very funny, right? Because see, there is this whole thing about Swiggy and even Zomato PMs looking at, like suddenly the user vanished. And they were like, क्या हो रहा है? And they realized, oh, user app बंद करके Zomato पे जा रहा है, Zomato से Swiggy पे जा रहा है for that 20 rupees discount, 50 rupees discount, right? And yet when it comes to, like, this is very interesting behavior, right? Like when it comes to your FD, you're not really taking the time out to realize that, oh, you know what, I have 2 lakh rupees or 5 lakh rupees. It can be better off if I can do this. Versus you're like, oh, mera hi bank hai, whichever, your banking services is. You just end up finding whatever is the right rate at that, 369 days or 390 days sort of too. And just you're like, okay, let's just kind of, close on that.
70% of the people who have FD are having FD today on a lower interest rate versus the rate that they can get anywhere else. Even of that 70%, half of the people can get better interest rate in the same bank. But उन्होंने पहले कर रखा है तो नहीं, and they don't know. Nobody will communicate to them. These are the calls where people don't take and where we feel that they are missing out on a larger opportunity. And the goal is to make India wealthier by making those small, smart choices when it comes to a large amount of their capital.
This is so convincing. Like this makes sense. This makes sense. And how you want to make money in all of this? Like, what's your plan to?
See, eventually, I think every company will make money by by manufacturing a product. Like in mutual funds, the most amount of the money will be made by the manufacturer, which is the AMCs, mutual funds. In stocks, the most amount of money is made by the companies jinka stock listed hai. Right? In bonds, the most amount of the money is being made by the issuer who is issuing that, right? So manufacturing is the best way to go about it. But the only problem that anybody must be facing who are into the same business, whether you build a distribution first or you start manufacturing. I think people have taken different approaches of doing things. I think our approach is to build the distribution first and get that. And we said that which is India's favorite asset class today? It's FD, right? And we said that we start with that. It's a simple product. When you tell FD to somebody, people will just ask interest rates. And people do that. And we have seen, it's just early user base. And we have seen people, yesterday I was talking to a customer and said, my 95% of the money is in stocks and now I'm feeling jittery. I want to do in fixed return. I'm doing some bonds, but I want to put some money in FDs as well. Right? So that is one use case. People are saying that this is one product where me and my parents can do the investments together, right? Because they get additional benefits, but I also want to do the fixed return for the long term. And we believe that India is at a stage where it's a very unique stage right now where stocks are at the all-time high and interest rates are also at the all-time high, right? Over time, this will change that maybe after a year or so, the rates will start going down. And we believe this is a very good time for Indian people to start booking long-term FDs so that they capture the highest interest rates before the rate starts going down. And so I think keeping all of these tailwinds in mind, we thought that starting with an FD product for the larger India is the most important thing.
You said about team, right? So you're looking at a team to build this with you. So how is that looking for you right now, at least in stable? Are you hiring? Are you? I know some GrowthXers are already a part of
this. So I think we are a full packed team right now. We have been building the team for the last 9 months. So we have growth, product, engineering, investments, partnerships, all these pieces completely filled. We are also looking at now, as we are starting going out, how these different people are scaling before actually fixating on somebody to do a particular role, right? So now I think most of the people are fluidic who are doing many roles across, barring some technical roles that are there. And depending upon how that goes, we will finalize, okay, growth, marketing, product, who is doing what. So like right now, everybody is doing everything. My biggest focus is customer success. So my role is to sit every day evening and call 10-15 customers who have booked, who have not booked, who have uninstalled the app, what is happening onto those users. So that's what we are doing right now. We are not hiring right now, but soon, depending upon the scale that we get, we will identify the pockets in which we need people. And I think what I've learned from Sachin is get somebody who has not done that role, give him an opportunity and make that person leading that rather than creating multiple layers, getting some senior people into doing this. And that's been the thought process so far. It's been working for us.
And also so counterintuitive actually, right? You're like, hey, you're an expert, you've done this before, do it for me. Do it again.
But there is one interesting concept. I've written it on LinkedIn. It says that hire for slope, don't hire for intercept, right? Intercept is where people understand, let's say I want to talk about bonds, right? And there are people who have been selling bonds for last 10 years, right? For their knowledge, I don't want to hire them. Get them as consultant. They will give you all the knowledge required immediately as soon as possible. But have somebody who is so agile and so flexible to learn new things, right? And that person should take that knowledge and quickly build onto that, right? Like what we spoke about, how happened in Swiggy. Like get somebody who has not done this but has a higher slope. And that's how I think the team should be built. That initially when you are building the founding team, don't look for experts, get expert as consultants, right? Build a team which will have a very high agility, who can learn very fast. These experts will teach the team, and that team you can then carry forward after 6 months, 9 months, and could be a game changing. That's been the approach that we are. Like we had consultants on design, we had consultants on growth, we had consultants on hiring, we had consultants on regulations, compliance, but they are not part of our core team. Our core team is the people who are hungry, new, young, who wants to make a difference.
Now I'm exactly like, so I recently joined like somewhere and I was talking to like Vishal, who's the founder.
Right.
Like, why have you hired me? Like I don't have this knowledge. And now I get it, right? Like, I think it's the same philosophy, which I was not able to understand. And this kind of makes sense. In absolute way. So, I mean, right now it's an app, right? So Stable Money is an app. It's available on Play Store and soon on iOS. Already on
iOS.
Okay. And it's not a web experience.
It's not a web experience as of yet. We are planning to.
Why? Like we're very curious, right? Like a lot of, look at Win12, look at Golden Pie, look at a lot of them, like Zero and all. They are good web experiences.
Yes.
People, like again, my hypothesis is like people will do some things casually on, like casual stuff is done on phone. But when it comes to like saying like, no, my laptop khol ke baithunga. Like there is this thing, right? Like whenever I'm doing finance, like no, I'm going to open my Excel sheet, I'm going to sit on the laptop, I'm going to like open those few tabs, right? You know, and then that feels that like, you know, it's about behavior, right? Now I've put in that gravitas and seriousness. It's almost like work. I know I schedule a time on my calendar, like, you know, once a month or something, I'm going to look at my finances. So, I mean, this is user behavior. What was the insight around like, having an app and not a web experience?
So first is, I think, to be very honest, we also wanted to have a web experience, but I think for us, data security is very, very critical. Like, for example, a customer who is booking an FD or booking a bond, even we don't want to hold that data. That data should be between that user and the bank. It should not be with anybody else, right? That privacy, we are taking it very seriously. And on web, that privacy gets compromised a lot, right? That has to be built, which takes a longer time for us and the financial institutes to align and build that. And we are in process of building that. That's the first reason
tell me more. I want to dig deeper. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, aren't apps, like building apps difficult, and especially working with so many banks?
Yeah.
And like, or is it this whole API scene is much better?
Yeah. So for example, data sharing in API is the seamless thing.
Yeah.
Right? Can happen on the web as well and app as well. That's the seamless experience. But what we are taking is an SDK approach in which the data is safe within that SDK, which only is with the bank.
Okay.
Right, so that's how we are doing it, and obviously web SDKs comes with its own challenges on how that works. So that's the first reason web. I think second reason is the same piece, right? 70-80% of traffic is on the app, and we said that if we are able to associate saying that stable money is what I trust, right? Then our app experience is so seamless that booking an FD is a 150-second affair. And choosing the right FD is another 150-second affair. 300 सेकंड में 5 मिनट में a user can choose the best FD possible, can invest through our app. We just need to build enough trust onto the user, and that's what we have been doing not only onto the app but outside of the app as well. Like, how people, when they think of stable money and any product inside, is they don't think twice. And if you're able to build that now, in future, when we come up with debt mutual funds, when we come up with bonds, when we come up with all these products, right, it becomes very easy for us. Right now, obviously, there is some trust on stable money, but there is a lot of borrowed trust from the banks.
Yes.
Right? कि आज मेरे इस पे Axis Bank है, Shriram Finance है, Bajaj Finance है, there are a lot of other banks which are there. People will trust that.
Yeah.
Right? So we are doing that and then slowly scaling it up.
And how are you kind of designing for, like, one of my fears, if I was in your seat, is, I don't want stable to become a discovery platform.
Yeah.
In the sense, okay, I understand that I get 9.xyz in this bank. Let me go to that bank's website and do it directly. Because I still don't understand, like, why stable money involved. Like,
I'll tell
you get the point, right?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, that's a very interesting one. And this has been the most asked question to us. And what if I tell you that going onto that bank's website and booking it is more tedious than booking the same FD of the same bank onto my app? Like, for example, if you go to, let's say, Utkarsh Small Finance Bank, to open an FD there, you'll have to first open a savings account.
Oh, shit.
But if you do that booking on my platform, you don't have to open a savings bank account. If you go to if you go to other competitor where federal FD is getting saved, you don't even realize, but your saving account is getting created in the backend, and then the FD is getting created. But when it happens on our platform, there is no bank account created. You can book FD from any of your bank account into that, and it works.
And interest goes back, and the
principal goes back, principal goes back. And then you don't have to close anything. You don't have to manage any other bank account, right? The entire data pool about your PAN, about your Adhar, about entire eKYC is secured and it's seamless. All these integrations, we have spent a lot of time in doing that. That has become very seamless. So, like maybe someday you should try, but you'll realize that it's not easy even to go to the bank. The only question is, we want to be that Google Maps where whenever you go out of your house, right, whether it is you're walking to that place, whether you're taking auto, whether you're taking your own car, whether you're taking taxi, you'll first see on Google Maps kitna time lagega yahan jane ke. We're saying anybody who is doing their fixed return investment, anybody who's booking their first FD, or anybody who's booking FD should come onto this platform, check first. And then we are okay if they go to their bank and book it for whatever reason. But I'm 100% sure once somebody lands onto this platform, they'll not be able to go back to their bank and book it. Interest rates are better. Safety, security is there. You don't have to create a bank account. It's seamless. We have a 24/7 support that is available to answer all the queries. That's what I think people want, because trust सबसे बड़ी चीज़ है. And all of these are regulated, RBI regulated products. So we believe this will be. This will work.
And I think I really love it. Like, like if you look at low interest rates, then, you have products like Wind Wealth, looking at a very interesting, like the, sub-mutual fund
Sub-mutual fund, still a little safe.
Yes, still stay, but like not as mutual. And then you have the mutual funds, and then you have like higher risk. Like everybody is so fixated on this portion. What they're not realizing that there is this gap that you can also optimize. I think that's exactly what you solve for here. And
But I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
some of the users that we have seen, right? People who are just so completely focused on that
yeah.
are the people jinka either their spouses or their parents have done most of the later wala part, right? And people who are first time rich,
Yeah.
right? People like us, right? Who are coming from a very humble background have a decent portfolio allocation. They will not put 100% of the money in equity. They'll not put 80%. They know there are times where all of these are important, but you have to make smart choice. You can't be fool to invest in a 4% FD just because it's safe, right? You have to make money. Your money can't be degrowing post inflation and taxation, right? So make smarter choices. Look for 9-10% across all of this. That's what it should be.
The boy from Aurangabad.
Yeah.
Who's like, I'm rich.
I'm just saying, first time rich, yahan pe, I still remember that Bajaj Chetak for 25 years of this, and that has now upgraded himself to Activa. To at least having a car is, to me, is a rich thing.
Yeah, I'm so tempted to ask you. ये सब में कितना कमाया?
अभी तक, like, to be very honest, on this podcast, 0.
Oh.
But someday.
Damn.
Someday we are all hoping for Swiggy to go IPO.
Yes. Inshallah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? I think it's been a beautiful conversation. Like, I know still there are pieces where I wanna like dig deeper, but some things for later. Some things for when stable becomes a mammoth and like things are.
There always has to be a sequel. I think the sequel.
You know what I do? I go to places when I travel, and I always leave like something like unseen.
So I can go back.
Yeah, so there is a reason to.
Yeah.
Like so there is a reason for me to do that.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward, Saurabh, to see how you evolve, not from distribution, but to that manufacturing.
Yeah.
Like I purposely did not ask you that.
Yeah.
And I would not do that. Like, let me see how it happens. Let me see what you're going to build.
Absolutely.
And there's something interesting there.
Yeah, a lot of things we also don't know. I think we'll ride the wave and see the customers who are coming, what do they want.
Yeah.